everyone. Welcome back to Poppin In with Alexa and Molly. I'm Molly.
And I'm Alexa.
And we have so much to rant about today.
Yes.
There is so much news. I feel like Alexa and I have not seen each other in, it feels like 5 weeks. It's probably been not even a week.
We haven't seen each other since, if you listen to our last episode, we recorded with friend of the pod, Tanya. So
yeah.
And I want everyone to know, like, I made it here with a sprained ankle. That's how much I care, because I fell off my front porch steps. My neighbor, shirtless, had to come over. He's a man, to clarify, had to come over and help me up. And I was actually laughing, thinking to myself, like, if you just saw that, your neighbor just fall the way that I did off their front steps, just absolutely eat it and then just not get up. Like, just something comical
about the time that I happened to be driving past a kid who fell off his bike and I kept driving.
One time I was running.
He was fine, but it just was like, what am I supposed to do? Stop and like
yeah.
I don't know, like.
Yeah.
It was too late. I was already driving by.
He's a child. He will recover faster than I will recover from this. But one time I was running and I fell, and I remember the car next to me like slowed down, like they were gonna help me, but I just saw their face be like, oh, and then they just kept going.
Oh shit.
Like I literally ate shit and fell on my face. And I was like, thank you. Oh. So anyways, we're here because we care.
Yeah.
And we're also ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Rough and tumble.
And I just want to say, I was just saying to Alexa, like literally seconds before we started this podcast, that I knew nothing about the Menendez Brothers. Nothing. People would talk about the Menendez Brothers, and I know the name, or I knew the name, but I really like didn't know that much. Like I didn't know anything about them.
Yeah.
I now know everything about the Menendez Brothers.
Yeah, same.
And I'm really ready to get into this because, okay, so the Ryan Murphy show Monster, this season is called Monsters The Menendez Brothers, just came out on Netflix last week.
Yeah.
And I watched all 9 episodes in like 4 days.
Same.
Which for me is a binge, because I don't really binge things.
Yeah.
Like
for me, that's an everyday thing.
Like, I don't think I've ever watched something, you know how people can, like you said, you watched the entirety of like a Bridgerton season in one day.
Yeah. Well, it was split into halves, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. Half of the, yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that 9 episodes in 4 days is a lot for me. So
yeah.
I'm here to talk about this because this show has been talked about a lot. It's been very controversial.
Yeah.
And so we both watched it.
Yeah.
Did you know a lot about the Menendez Brothers before you watched this one?
No, because I also got them confused. Isn't there like
Also, if I said Netflix, I meant Hulu. I'm sorry. I think I did just say it came out on Netflix.
It is on Netflix.
It's on Hulu. It's on Hulu, yeah. No, it's Hulu.
It's Netflix. I know it's Netflix because Hulu won't let us log in on our TV, so I always have to cast it from my phone. So I definitely watched it on Netflix.
It is Netflix. You're right.
And
no, you're right.
But here's the point. Here's why I was going to say this. So before you got here, I read the longest profile of Ryan Murphy his
other shows come out on Hulu. That's why I got confused.
Yes, because he had I think it was 12-year contract with FX, and that's where American Crime Story premieres. And
American Horror Story.
But I was like, why are we doing American Crime Story and Monsters, which are also American Crime Stories? And I think it's because of the contract he has with FX to do like Monsters, like Jeffrey Dahmer was on Netflix.
So the way that I split it up, in my head, it's American Crime Story is like, so like the first season was OJ. Mm-hmm. And that's more than just like a murder. It's like there's like a whole political landscape.
Yeah.
And there's just like there's a lot of story behind it. So it's not just like monster. Like there's a lot behind it.
Yeah.
But then, like, the second season was the Andrew Cunanan who killed Gianni Versace. That, to me, would have fit into Monster.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then, like, the third season was Bill Clinton, the whole Clinton versus whatever. That all was... That makes sense for Crime Story. But then you've got the Menendez Brothers was the second season of Monster. The first season was Jeffrey Dahmer, which was also controversial. Monster seems to be very controversial just in general, because I think a lot of people... the first season, Jeffrey Dahmer, that was very controversial because, you know, first of all, Ryan Murphy doesn't ever talk to people to kind of, not that someone necessarily has to do this, but like he never talks to the victims or anything.
He doesn't get their approval on it, that's for sure.
And in the Jeffrey Dahmer case, it would be the families of victims. Yeah, and so And also, like, Evan Peters played him, so it felt like it was sort of almost like romanticizing a very sick human. And this season, I would not have put this season in the monster category. No, I would have put it in American Crime Story.
Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, like, it actually really pissed me off. Like, I was going on a rant when I was at Busch Gardens on Friday about it. Because I was just like, why are we doing these two things? Because one thing about Ryan Murphy is I think right now he must have about 1,500 shows out.
He does.
Like, I'm not kidding.
Currently, he has 4 shows premiering.
Yeah, because he has Grotesquerie. He has
the Menendez
Brothers.
There's like a weird show called like it takes place on a ship.
Oh yes.
And then there's the Aaron
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Who I also when I first heard that he was doing a Menendez Brothers show, I thought it was Aaron Hernandez because he also did that show.
There's a lot of Des.
Yes, it's a lot of, like, I don't know, but I'm just like, what are you doing?
He is, because it's not, and the thing is, it's just him, like, producing it. I think, like, so with his shows, he might, like, maybe write or direct the first episode, but then it's usually, like, somebody else takes it over. So some of those might be just him, like, he just produced it, and he's not necessarily, but yeah, he's got his hands in a lot of
pots,
right now, a lot of pots. So I did hear an interesting thing today about the monster, what I just said, that Menendez Brothers didn't need to be in the monster show. It could be considered monsters, like maybe the whole family were monsters, you know what I mean? I just don't consider Lyle and Eric Menendez monsters necessarily. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. I do think, here's what I will start off by saying, because like I said, this season got a lot of criticism because people, Eric and Lyle, they say that they went through a lot of abuse at the hands of their parents and they were victims of abuse.
Which we should say a huge content warning for emotional, physical, and sexual abuse is a huge topic in regards to this case.
And I do think, so I wish that people would actually watch the show before commenting on it, because what I've noticed from a lot of the criticism is they're like, they'll see scenes from it, or they'll watch the first episode, and then people will be like, well, did you finish it? And they're like, no, I couldn't get past the first episode. And it's like, so get past it, because they get into it. Like, just trust the process. I do think Ryan Murphy is very out of pocket sometimes. Like, he does some crazy, like, there's no doubt about that. He kind of has his own, like, I don't want to say agenda. I don't really know how to phrase this, but, like, he has a Ryan Murphy twist on things. Like, you know what I mean? Right. When you watch something that Ryan Murphy made, it's very clear that it's a Ryan Murphy show. But I will say, like, it does get into all the topics that people are like, they're not even discussing that or whatever. They do. Just finish the whole show. I actually thought it was good.
And I will say, in terms of Ryan Murphy shows, I like his, and I'm just going to lump them together, like the Monsters, I like the American Crime Story the best. And I'm honestly going to lump this in with that. I don't think it's, because Jeffrey Dahmer, I fell off of. I got a little bit, not bored with it, but I was just like, where are we?
So here's what I want to say about what Ryan Murphy does with Monster that really irritates me. And I'm going to say, as a fan of both Niecy Nash and Nathan Lane was in the second season. He played the journalist. I forgot his character's name, but he was the journalist. Dominic Dunn. It's like he takes a character that's related to the story. First of all, Niecy Nash's character was actually not a character in real life. I think they kind of just made her a character. She may have been like a combination of people, but she wasn't like one specific person. And it's like they always focus too much on this one person who's like not really related to the story, and it feels kind of weird. It was like, I've never said this before because I am the biggest Nathan Lane fan. Way too much Nathan Lane. Way too much of this journalist and Menendez. Like,
so here's the thing. So I watched, I would say 2/3 of the show. It's the feud one that came out. It's Capote versus the Swans. And I would say Nathan Lane's character reminds me of how certain instances Capote is portrayed. And when I was reading that profile of Ryan Murphy, I realized I think these characters are very similar to Ryan Murphy, where they're always at a dinner party. And they're like, let me tell you the gossip. Let me put you in an uncomfortable position.
How many times did this character have a dinner party.
Yeah.
It was like every episode, for context, we're talking about in the Menendez Brothers, there's a character, Dominic Dunn, he's a journalist. I don't know for what, like, I don't remember what they said he was
I think Vanity Fair.
Vanity Fair. So he knows, like, all the gossip. He knows the attorneys. Like, he has his own personal story, so it's kind of related, but not really.
His daughter was murdered by her boyfriend, and her boyfriend was represented by the same lawyer who represented the Menendez brothers, and he got off, like, the boyfriend got off on the murder charges because the lawyer claimed that he had been sexually abused.
Yes. And so obviously he has some type of way about this, but it's like they focused way too much on him. And every episode he was having a dinner party where he's like, he's at the head of the table and he's like, let me tell you how I feel about this case. And they're all like sitting there like, yes, tell us. If I were at that dinner party, I'd be like, first of all, why did you have 5 dinner parties this week? Why am I sitting here at this table still hearing about this?
Because that's how, and maybe this is true of Truman Capote, but that's how he is in The Swan. Like, he'll be like, let me tell you the details about this gruesome murder. And the way that, like, Ryan Murphy was describing one of his, like, dinner parties, I'm like, it sounded the same way, where he's like, let's put everyone on the spot and play, like, this weird game of where we all say who's our favorite person or something like that in the room. Like
I
weird,
could see that.
Weird stuff like that, where I'm just like, oh, okay, I think those characters are, in a way, him being the narrator.
Interesting.
That's what I would think.
Yeah, that's an interesting take.
Yeah. But no, so I think what's interesting is also Ryan Murphy apparently got the idea for this season because of the Menendez brothers really blowing up on TikTok. So I watched this documentary on HBO on the Menendez brothers, and they talk about how, like, recently there's been a resurgence, it's like 47 million posts or something crazy like that on TikTok of people who are advocating, and it's primarily young women, but there are some other, like, people, but mostly women, advocating for, you know, a relook at their case, saying like that they were, like, not wrongly accused, but, like, the sentence was too harsh and that XYZ, which I think is interesting because when you do look at it with, like, almost like a Gen Z lens, or you know, where it's like some things that happened during it would never fly now.
No. Did you see that they are, as of today, I forgot who it was who announced it. It was like somebody related to them. I forgot who. I can't remember who said it, but they are going to get, in like 60 days, they're getting their appeal, like, reviewed.
And they've appealed, like, multiple times.
I think they have, like, an actual, I think it might be, like, the thing is, I don't know, I'm curious to see how you feel, because we kind of had this discussion at work today, and a lot of people are very split on the situation. As you said, I think a lot of people now look at the case and they're like, these 2 boys who were abused.
Yeah.
Who were basically in the show, they imply that they were fearful of their life. Mm-hmm. That's why they acted the way that that's why they acted on, that's why they killed their parents.
Yeah.
They killed their parents in a very brutal way. I mean, honestly, they did. Like, and there's...
If you're not familiar with the case, they walk in with shotguns, they shoot their dad in the knee and I think in the face, and then they also shoot their mom, I think they shoot their dad in the side, they shoot the mom in the knee. And then later, and I don't think they portray this in the show, but, you know, they say, like, she was still alive.
No, they showed that.
Yeah, and he
had to go and finish her off.
Yeah, he literally put the shotgun to her left cheek and, like, shot her. So it's, like, a very brutal...
It was brutal, yeah. And the thing is, like, so the way that... And this is where people who didn't watch the show clearly were like... It's not, like, how are they going to call them monsters? Like, I'm so sick of Ryan Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, they get into it. They do show that the dad, played by Javier Bardem, which I'm like, I said this, I don't know how, I mean, that was shocking to me that he was on that show.
The mom is Chloe Sevigny.
Who I love, but she's in a lot of Ryan Murphy stuff.
Yeah, she is too. Yeah.
So, I think she was in Swans, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
And she's been on, like, American Horror Story and stuff. So, that wasn't surprising, but, like, Javier Bardem, I'm like, okay. I thought the casting was great, and I'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, they do show that the dad was abusive to them, and the mom stood by and watched it. She also was, like, abusive to them in her own way. But these, if their telling is correct, which I think it is, personally, like, I believe them. They were abused, like, as children, like, kind of. up until they were like teenagers basically.
Yeah.
But what I was just going to say was, so that is where they come in and say like, we were tired of being abused. Also, we thought that they were going to try to kill us. And that's why they did it. I think, because it's a very divided thing, like I said, people were having conversations at work today about it, and I do think two things can be true at once, because I think that they were abused. Yeah. But I also think, like, they didn't need to be a brutal killing like that. Yeah. And they also acted in a weird way afterwards. They blew all their money. They didn't even know if they were in the will.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is people were like, they acted in a weird way. And I'm like, okay, the people's response to trauma cannot be just like, you were supposed to act.
It's not black or white. Yes, no, I agree with that.
And also, so I don't know if you know this, but recently...
Would you go and blow all their money, though? I think that's kind of a different...
I think it's almost like they were so, like... confined by their dad and his choices and his wants for them that it was probably just like, you know what? And also like, to clarify, we don't have to go into like significant detail, but the abuse is like it's horrific. It was, yeah. And so a detail recently came out when so they had two trials because the first one was declared a mistrial. During the first trial, the Menendez's cousin came on the stand and testified when they were 6 or 7. He had admitted to him that Lyle had told him that his dad had...
I thought it was a girl. At one point, they did definitely tell
they have a
girl.
Cousin. They have I think there was a boy cousin too. Yeah. So that his dad had been molesting him. Mm-hmm. And people like kind of... So they didn't have him in the mistrial. They didn't bring up anything about the sexual abuse in the mistrial, which is crazy. Yeah. Or in the second trial, excuse me. But, so that cousin, I guess he passed away, and his mother found a letter from Lyle. It was like a few months before the murders took place, where he is describing to his cousin, basically like, you know, Dad is back at it again. I'm afraid of him. I'm afraid of what he's going to do. He's told me hundreds of times not to tell anyone, especially not Lyle. And he, like, basically is talking about, like, what his dad had been doing to them. Yeah. So it's, like, a significant piece of evidence.
The details also, like, that they say are so specific. Mm-hmm. They have, like, names. They had names for what their dad did to them. Yeah. And, like, also, just this, I won't go into detail, but the stuff about the cinnamon or whatever. Yeah. You know, that kind of stuff. Like, that was so specific that it's, like... It was definite. I definitely believe it. Mm-hmm. But I also think, and people are like, but they spent the money and they, you know, whatever. I think they were also rich assholes. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that's why I say I think two things are true. They're also, it was interesting because during the first trial, they had both brothers on the stand. Lyle did great. Like, he was really, very emotional. It really drew it very much drew sympathy from the jury. But then afterwards, there was, like, a call where he was, like, bragging about how great he did on the stand, and he was, like, acting. Yeah. And so it's, like, things like that where it's, like... And I still believe them, but I'm just saying, like, I think that's where it went wrong was just the way they also acted with it. It was... Yeah. But you're right, there's no black or white way.
I think that also comes from a sense of emotional immaturity, which comes from... I mean, again...
They were in their 20s.
They were in their 20s, and, again, the trauma that they suffered regularly from both of their parents, and they didn't put this in the show that much, but apparently in the real trial they alluded to their mom sexually abusing them as well. Yes.
And I was just gonna say, so where I was going with all that is, like, I do think that they deserve time. Don't get me wrong. Like, I do, because they brutally killed their parents. Yeah. So, like, whatever, like, you know, they did deserve time. I don't think they deserve time anymore. I don't think they deserved life in prison. To me, they were not going to go and do it again to somebody else. It was it was a very specific, direct killing. Right. So I just don't, I think they've served their time, and they should be.
I just think, like, you know, the way that people react to things, like, okay, so their whole thing was, you know, we thought they were going to kill us. Mm-hmm. Honestly, even if that hadn't been a part of it, I would have been like, I would understand why you would snap and kill your parents after 20 years.
They did basically. Not snap.
No, they didn't snap.
So that's the other thing. It was premeditated. Very premeditated. And that's where I say, like, understandable. Yes, I do think they deserve time. Yeah. So I don't agree when people are like, they're not, like, I wouldn't call them monsters, but I would just say that they're. But I did think that was an interesting take, that the monsters thing could actually be calling the whole family monsters.
Yeah.
Like, they're not specifying who were the monsters.
Right. One thing that I thought was interesting is in the show, they talk about how the younger brother Eric is potentially gay. And I think, like, people were not able to kind of swallow that fact. And also, like, there was just in the news, like, people made fun of them in the news all the time. And it's kind of crazy because it's like you hear about, like, the sexual abuse that they had, like, experienced from their father. And people were making fun of them, and all the, like, journalists, everyone from the time would say, like, you know, back then it was easier to believe that they killed their parents for money than that this horrible thing was happening in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
And again, a content warning for what I'm about to say, but in the trial, like, I was listening to some tapes of it, and it's things that were said then that would never be said now, but people didn't believe that men could be raped. And they literally said in the trial, men cannot be raped, they do not have the proper parts for it.
Yeah.
Which is so crazy to hear. And it's just like, I think we just didn't have the social awareness.
It was so not the right time for them to have gone and tried. Like, if this was now, this would be a whole different.
Yeah. And then, like,
people have such a different view on things now.
Yeah. And they bring up, so this happened in 1989, and they're in jail for, like, I mean, a decent amount of time while their trial is going on. So much so that while their trial is still going on, OJ, which is, I know in 1995, because my mom always talks about how she was on bed rest with me, and the only thing on TV was OJ the whole time. But anyways, so I think it was 1994, like, he went to prison, he was in the jail block or whatever next to them, and they talk about, like, you know, public opinion or just public interest obviously went all the way to that.
Yeah.
And then OJ obviously got off the murder charges, and they said, you know, when it came to Lyle and Eric's retrial, or whatever you want to call it, that the county needed a win. They needed something, you know, and it's just, it's crazy when you listen, because there's also, sorry, I know I'm like, if I'm interrupting you, just interrupt me right back. But there are, like, one of the things that was evidence in the first trial is, like, they found these pornographic photos of Lyle and Eric when they were children that their dad took of them. It was in an envelope, like, in his safe or something, like, in his dad's safe. But then I think in the retrial, and maybe in the original one, they argued that Lyle and Eric took those photos of each other.
Yeah.
And the prosecutor, I think he said something, he was like, if this was evidence for child molestation, there would be a lot more cases or something like that. And it's like, what? Why do you have pictures of children's...
Yeah.
Like, why would your dad have that in a safe?
Yeah.
Even if your children are weirdly taking photos of each other like that, I don't know, burn them? Like, why would you keep it? It's obvious that I don't know.
Yeah. So the other thing with the county is they had really screwed up. Like, they show this kind of slightly, but they had messed up a lot with both the investigation of that trial. They were being told, like, they were really, like, not doing a good job of that. They were kind of being made a joke. They'd also arrested some actress. They kind of showed it slightly, but they had like, I forgot her name, but they pulled over this, like, very famous actress who, like, slapped one of the police officers in the face. And it was just, like, a whole thing. So they were really being seen as, like, a joke.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting. So one thing I thought, and I'm kind of skipping ahead, I thought it was crazy. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because they just announced, or at least somebody said they announced this a while ago. I thought they just recently announced this, that Lyle and Eric are now being moved to the same prison.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think they are. They're, because before at the end of the show, it was actually very moving. I really did think the show was very good. But the end showed the two of them being taken to two separate prisons, which I thought was wild, because you'd think, like, why now? Like, during the trial is when they should have been separated.
They were separated during the trial.
At first, though, they put them right next to each other.
Because I think typically you do put family together, but then Lyle wrote this crazy escape plan and passed a note to Eric So then they were like, okay, well, we can't have y'all near each other.
Well, so the attorney said you don't normally split up family. That's crazy. I think she was talking about after. Like, usually in prison, they'd be fine to be together because it's already after the trial. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I guess that was the whole escape thing was a factor. But I thought it would, and then, yeah, so, but I thought it was interesting. The OJ thing I thought was weird because, first of all, there's already a whole show about OJ, and it felt like, again, they were focusing, and I know it was like slightly related to the case, but there was one point where it was like the beginning of the show, it started with the OJ, like they were showing OJ and the whole thing, and then it like cut to like the Menendez Brothers logo, and I was like that's just weird, like opening credits thing.
Well, I think so when I watched the documentary about it, I think OJ's case really did play into like the results of the Menendez brother case, and I think that's why, which is weird, but also like OJ's like the biggest case of the 90s.
But interestingly, the Menendez brothers is what put crime TV on the map, which I didn't know. It was like the Menendez brothers and then OJ. Yeah. But the Menendez brothers were really the ones that like had, you know, court TV on the map. So I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I thought the casting was phenomenal. Like the acting. Yeah. Episode 5 where it I don't know how to pronounce his last name. I think it's Cooper Koch. He plays Eric.
I think that's how you say it.
The actor that played Eric, he was amazing. Yeah. But episode 5 is literally just a full shot of just him talking. Like you can see it's like the actress who played the attorney was amazing as well.
Which also, I forget her name, but A, she looks like Kesha sometimes, and B, I always remember her. She was in this movie with Jonah Hill. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in a film, where she kind of plays, I think it's like something about like the babysitter or the sitter or something, and she plays like this hot girl. She gets trash. Her gum falls into this toilet that's like filled with stuff. Ew. She's so drunk she pulls the piece of gum out and puts it back in her mouth. I have seen that actress in a few things now. Does a great job. I will never forget that scene.
So I think her name is Ari Grainer, but she was in, the only thing I've seen her in is a movie called The Disaster Artist, which has James Franco and it's like he plays Tommy Wiseau. It's actually a very good movie, but she was so good in this show. I literally was like, so this episode was just her and Eric, the actor that plays Eric, and it was the two of them just talking, and Eric is like basically talking about the abuse. It is like, I'm not kidding, a 40-minute shot of just him talking. Yeah. And like her talking too, but it's like only and the camera like slowly zooms in on him the whole episode. It was like, it like gave me chills. It was so good. And the actor that played Lyle was also really good. Yeah. Nicholas Chavez, I believe his name is. I don't know. Also in the Grotesquerie show.
That makes sense.
Which I've watched the first 2 episodes of. Very boring, but he's in it. He plays a priest. Okay. Really hot. He's really
Love a hot priest. So Cooper Koch.
Koch. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. Koch.
Koch. Probably not.
I think it's either Koch or Koch.
Yeah, but so he went and visited the prison where Eric Menendez was. I think him and Kim Kardashian did it on some mission. So they met Eric Menendez, and he said he was a phenomenal guy. Like Eric is not a fan of the show because he doesn't like how it's going to be portrayed, but apparently they got on really well. And what's interesting is he said like as soon as they saw each other, they obviously like recognized each other because they look so much alike.
They do. And so I think Nicholas Chavez, I think is his name, who plays Lyle, also I think he looked like him too.
Oh yeah.
But yes, he did. And I think so what I was going to say about the Kim Kardashian thing. Yeah, he and Kim Kardashian, because apparently Kim Kardashian is like a colleague. Like she is like genuinely, she's like another Ryan Murphy basically. She's starring in his next like show, which she's literally leading the show. I think Sarah Paulson is also in the show. I'm like, what world do we live in? I'm sorry, but what world do we live in where Kim Kardashian is leading a show and Sarah Paulson is like a supporting character?
I told you I have a hot take that I think is going to make you mad. Okay. I think Ryan Murphy is sometimes a fan of casting people who are not good at acting.
Why would that make me mad? I've said that like the whole time.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was like, why did you watch Coven first? Like it's some of
the worst acting I've ever seen.
Great acting, and also the worst
like
acting.
Kim Kardashian, she's many things. I don't think she's a good actress.
She's not. She was in 2 of his American Horror Story seasons. And everybody made such a big deal how great she was. She was not good. Like she's fine. Yeah. She can make it through a show, but her acting is not great.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna really quickly say, well, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I would say like the acting in like these monsters and crime stories are his best casting usually, and it's probably because you can't have.
No, it's so serious.
It's so serious. You can't have campy acting.
No. Whereas American Horror Story, I would describe as camp.
Yeah,
like it's
which
campy.
Apparently Ryan Murphy hates that description, but I would say it is.
But it's good too. I think like it's also some great acting, but it's also a little campy. But I will say, like, so I've always said Versace is like the Versace season is one of the best things I've like ever seen on television. It's so good. But I was gonna say, so Kim Kardashian is so she's like apparently just like a colleague of Ryan Murphy's now. And so I think she went with Cooper to visit. I think it was both of the brothers, but I could be wrong. I thought maybe it was just Eric, but I thought it was both of the brothers.
I think they were there for like an event where you know how she does like a legal reform. Yeah,
she's working. It was for like a reform
like he wasn't there to meet him. I don't think.
No, but he probably came to meet them as well.
Yeah, like probably like while I'm here.
But I realized as I was saying, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool that they did that. But then I'm like, this is gonna be a storyline on the Kardashians. I'm already concerned about that.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's also concerning to me. Like that's.
It is.
I don't know.
Actually, I realized my actual controversial take that I was like, will frustrate
not controversial.
You. I was saying to someone, I think Ryan Murphy wants to be Mike Flanagan, who does The Haunting of Hill House and Midnight Mass.
Alexa, those shows came out way after Ryan Murphy
I know you were going to say that. But in terms of like, oh, this is horror and this is like whatever, but Mike Flanagan does it, I think, better. And I know you only watched one episode.
I'm going to argue I don't think he is trying to be like that at all.
I don't think he's trying to be like that, but I see the similarities where it's like, okay, each season is an anthology, and like we're casting like like they like to use the same actors or whatever, and I just think Mike Flanagan does it better. I'm gonna be honest, in terms of like horror, I just think it's so different. In terms of emotion.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Like, I'm not saying whether one's better than the other. I personally was bored by that.
Sorry,
I personally was bored by that show. But
it is the greatest horror television show.
That's fine. I think it's just different is all I'm saying. Yeah. Like I don't think Ryan Murphy is trying to be that at all because again, American Horror Story came out in like 2011. So like I don't think it's even trying to like be one and the same.
But I just see the similarities.
Yeah, but I just don't to your thing of like he's trying to be like that. I don't think so. But it's just different to me. I appreciate his show. I really do appreciate. I pretty much watch like every Ryan Murphy thing that ever comes out, but I'm also his greatest critic. Like I think like
the thing about me is, I'll be honest, I do like a camp thing sometimes. Like I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love I don't know, random shit like that. I just can't. Again. You said I shouldn't have started with Coven.
No.
I could not. I got halfway through the season.
It's my least favorite season, actually, which is shocking. A lot of people love Coven.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting is you said, and I think rightly so, like the first few episodes will be really good and then it falls out. Mm-hmm. But I think like the same thing happens like with his series. So he did Glee and he also did Nip Tuck. I don't know if...
I actually never watched Nip Tuck.
I didn't either.
I think it was his first
one.
But
I was reading about it and people said it was around season 3 that both of those shows kind of are like, okay...
Glee, definitely Glee, yeah.
This is getting weird and ridiculous. Yeah. So I think like to solve that problem, he created an anthology series. And these like, he doesn't do, I don't think... multiple seasons of the same story because
Not
I don't
anymore,
think
yeah.
I don't think he can, which is fine. Like that's hard to do.
Yeah.
And I think like again, this was a great show about the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
But I think that's interesting. I think you're right on that.
And
front.
I didn't think the Menendez brothers one fell off. The only criticism I would just say, I think the Dahmer one did. I think that one went on for too long. But I think the Menendez brothers was very contained.
Yeah.
I only think that like the whole thing with the Dominic Dunn thing, way too much of him.
Yeah.
I was like, how many times? We don't care. Like, ultimately, we don't care. Like, no offense to the man. That's very sad that happened to him. But, like, we could have had maybe one scene about it. There's, like, a scene where it's so emotional. Like, he's, like, at the table. He's talking to one guy. And it's just like, it's so much. It's like, this is not relevant to the story. Let's not fill time here. Let's just get to what's relevant.
And I would say, like, the only Ryan Murphy shows I've ever finished are the Gianni Versace and this one. Because even Feud, and I love that feud, like the Truman Capote versus the Swans. I've read multiple books about it. Like, I think it's fascinating. I literally, it's not even that I actively stopped watching the show. I like forgot about it. Like I was just like, I don't really care. Like this is so weird. The acting is weird. Everyone's face is so Botoxed to the nines. I just can't.
I just remembered one that he did do multiple seasons of that was kind of more recent, not really recent, but The Politician. Did you ever watch that one?
Oh no, but I did hear about that.
The first season was good. It had Jessica Lange in it. The first season was good. The second season I was just like, I don't care anymore. So like I think it's just it is an issue. I think it's like the writing just clearly goes
downhill.
But
also I was gonna say, so you know, you were saying about like the series, people are upset and you're like, keep watching it. So the first episode I think does paint them in kind of this like bad light of they're just like kind of idiot rich brothers, but as you go on, the emotional depth that they show, there are points where I'm like, oh my god, why is Lyle such an idiot? But also you feel for him. Like you can tell like they really love each other and that they have like these complex emotions and they've been through things and I don't know, you feel for them.
Totally. After the because that's why that second trial just like went, they didn't put him on the stand at all, like, and it just went so poorly because he was like, he had messed up with, he had a pen pal who he gave like all this information to. She was writing a book and he was like, I didn't say that, and it was like, well, it was recorded, so
which is, I understand, because during that time like people didn't understand like the recordings over the phone, because even like the woman goes to testify and she didn't understand like how her voicemail worked. She was like, it was recording us all the time.
By the way, can we talk, so the whole reason, I didn't mean to totally cut you off, the whole reason they got caught was because Eric talks to his psychiatrist. He tells his psychiatrist, it's the first episode, and I don't blame him for that because he really just needed to get it out. He was just obviously, he was so traumatized by it. He was having nightmares. So he tells his psychiatrist. His psychiatrist tells his mistress, who is like clearly unstable, unhinged, why he would trust her with the information is absolutely wild to me.
Well, they go into this whole thing where she goes on the stand and talks about how like the therapist basically like abused her and like held her down and put pills down her throat. But what's interesting is I think it's very much like watching the show feels like you're someone in the jury, and I think Ryan Murphy said he did this intentionally where they present both sides. So they'll do scenes there's this whole thing, again, content warning, where Eric goes to the doctor as a child, he has a bruise in the back of his throat. And then the prosecution says, well, it's very similar to bruises that children get from basically like putting a popsicle in their mouth and falling. And they show the scene where he's just like falling. It's comical, but they like show these scenes. So they show kind of multiple versions of events, and it does make you feel like you would be in the jury, which I think is a really interesting way to present it. But I think some people were upset about some of those other portrayals, which I understand, but also, you know, he was like, they took a lot of the news stuff from that time and was like, this is how people saw it then, so we want like people now to see it, to understand a little bit.
And I think ultimately like what people are so angry about with Ryan Murphy is how he's like profiting off of like these like horrific stories and just kind of dramatizing these, you know, a story about two people who were abused, or in the Dahmer case, you know, just kind of horrific things. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because he sticks by it. Like, they'll ask him, and
he said, he was like, this is the greatest thing to ever happen to the Menendez brothers, which I don't think he's necessarily wrong, because it does bring attention to it. It does, like, people are like, why, like, you know,
he might possibly get out of prison soon. Like,
but also it wasn't his place, I don't think.
That's how I feel. I see both sides of it, because I'm gonna be honest, like, I see what people are saying, where it's like, it does seem kind of gross that he just kind of makes it and doesn't consult anyone. Not that he necessarily has to, but like, it does just seem a little insensitive. But at the same time, I'm watching it, and I think it's a good show. I'm gonna be honest. It was good work.
And I'm curious as to why he never consults anyone, and I think that's where the like problematic thing is. I think like when people do biopics, usually it's like, oh, like, yes, we've talked to the family and we've gotten their approval, like when they did Elvis and he's like, yeah, I went to Graceland. But
the problem with getting that approval, just to play devil's advocate, or not play devil's advocate, whatever, is if you're getting that approval, then are you only just really getting is it going to be bias? You know what I mean?
I think you have to do it almost like in a journalistic way, which Ryan Murphy is a former journalist, so he should know, where you say, like, I'm going to cover this story and I'm going to do it in an unbiased way. You don't get to have, like, final say, like a check yes, but can I cover your story? True. But that does make it difficult because a lot of people are going to say no. Mm-hmm. But also, again, I don't know if it's his place to tell these stories, like, but at the same time, other people are going to tell them anyways. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to Jeffrey Dahmer or the Menendez brothers, like, the American lore of those crimes is already in the zeitgeist, you know? So it's like, but I think sometimes Ryan Murphy puts these things in his shows that are almost, again, a little bit campy and a little bit, like, comical that I think is sometimes, like, where I get, like, okay.
And one thing that, the big thing that I'm totally forgetting to mention is that he puts, again, content warning, basically he implies that they had an incestual relationship. Yeah. Which the brothers say, that's the big thing, that the brothers are like, no, we did it. You know, Lyle is like, that never happened. And, I mean, they literally show them, like, kissing on the lips in the show. And they do imply that. And so that's another one where it's like, is this Ryan Murphy just being Ryan Murphy?
And so he did say, he was like, the reason we did that is the same reason where we, like, pointed, like, we did these multiple perspectives of different, like, what the news that was covering at the time. And he said Dominic Dunn, like, would write a lot about them being, like, incestual, implying that. So he's like, so we wanted to kind of, like, show that angle was there because that's what people at the time were reading about, you know? But it's also frustrating because it's like, okay, people at the time were reading about that, but also at the time, they were also horrible and didn't, like, understand, like,
it also makes it a little messy and confusing, I will say. Like, sometimes it was kind of like things were sort of maybe a little all over the place, but I guess, I mean, that just is making it like how we would have been viewing it as you know, people in the 90s. But yeah, it was just, it's interesting. I think it sparked a lot of conversation. Hopefully it brings some good, ultimately I think they served their time, and I hope they do get out, because I don't think they're gonna go and kill people more. I don't think they're actually
my thing monsters. Though is I can't imagine being in so they've basically been in prison since 1990. Yeah, you know, they're in their what, 40s or 50s probably now.
Well, they were in their 20s, early 20s, I think, when that happened.
So I'm just like, that has to be, you know, an interesting experience. Like, how do you integrate into society?
I was wondering what it was like when they're gonna, if it hasn't happened already, because again, I don't know when this happened or if it's going to happen, when they came to the same prison. I'm like, they haven't seen each other. Because you think about it, like, they have not seen each other. It's not like they can visit each other. Yeah. So they haven't seen each other in however long. Like, imagine that. You haven't seen your brother, in this person that you went through this whole experience with and you've spent your whole life with. Like, that's wild to me. Yeah. I just can't imagine it. Also, just knowing that you're going to prison the whole
I was
rest
thinking
of your
about
life.
that. Like, getting that, because basically it was like the options were the death penalty or life in prison. And it's just like, I can't imagine. And it's interesting because they have, like, years to kind of contemplate it before it's, like, official. Yeah. But also, like, just getting that sentencing of just, like, I don't know. And that's why I think they have the scene where Eric is talking to the priest and he's like, you know, Eric goes, I hope, like, we can have, like, an appeal, blah, blah, blah. And the priest goes, I don't want you to, the only thing you hope for to be getting out of prison. But it's also like, what else do you hope for? But apparently Eric and Lyle have been doing good things in prison. Like, I think one of them teaches, like, speech classes. They helped with, like, a mural project, you know, like, they've been doing really great things.
You can adapt. I mean, you adapt to prison. Like, you can get used
and they
to
show
anything.
that, I think.
Yeah. In the show?
Yeah, I think they do, where it's like Lyle's, like, lifting weights with his friends and they're talking.
Oh, when they're
like,
in jail at that point.
Yeah.
I think ultimately prison is probably, this could sound kind of crazy, but prison I think is probably better than jail.
Interesting. Why?
Because when you're in prison, that's just your life. You're living there. Jail, I always think jail must be actually the worst place, because everyone is probably in the worst moods of their lives. You're in jail when you're awaiting trial, basically. Yeah. Or if you're maybe sentenced to less than a year or something like that. I think that's why you're in jail. So it's not like a super, it's just kind of people are coming and going. It's not you're just like in a cell or whatever. I think prison, I'm not saying prison is good. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I think it's probably more comfortable than jail at least.
I just think about, like, so 2 of my cousins, like, work at a prison as guards, like a maximum security prison. And I just think about, like, and shout out to my sister who never listens to this, but if you do, love you. But, like, she has to, like, fill a silence in the same way I do. And we were all hanging out together. And there was just a silence, and she goes, so how do you guys like working at the prison? And my cousin, there's, like, again, a silence. He goes, well, I mean, it fucking sucks. Like, it's a prison.
Yeah.
You know, like, what do you mean?
I imagine it's not, like, great for the guards either.
Yeah, like, I don't know. The vibe's not probably high. Yeah.
The vibes are not high.
Not a super fun time, but yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to say about?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
45 minutes in, we had
a lot. I had a lot to say about it. It was
there's a lot of
first show in a long time where I've like really had a lot to say about a show. Like it was to me it was very moving.
Do you want a refill on the wine?
Yes.
Okay, well today we are drinking a Biltmore Estate Riesling, courtesy of Matthew and Molly.
This is a thank you for checking on our little pup.
Yes.
While I was out of town and Matthew was working.
Yes. No.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I always pour it right over the computer. I should really stop doing that.
This wine is very yellow. I don't really know another way to describe it. It's just very yellow.
Yeah, it is, but it's good. I really like it. I love a good white wine.
No, I do like it.
So you put on here, speaking of Kim Kardashian, her legal drama. What?
I really had nothing else to say other than what I mentioned, but I was going to go into that.
Oh, you mean like a legal drama show?
Yes.
I thought you meant she was in some sort of legal drama.
I believe, yes, I know what you're saying. She probably is. I feel like she's always, I don't know.
Nuances of the English language.
I don't know. Yeah. Like, let's eat grandma. Like that. Anyway, she is in a show that I want to say is called All's Fair, and it's possible that I just made that up. And if I did, then you know what? I should make up stuff. I should be entrusted to create shows.
Because I remember I screenshot it to you because we had, like, literally the day before been talking about how much stuff Ryan Murphy does, and I was like, and here's another.
Well, and that's so I was going to transition out of the fact that she visited the Menendez brothers in prison with Cooper. Let's just call him Cooper.
Yeah. Cooper.
Because I think, and I know we said this show is on Netflix, but Ryan Murphy's shows are also on Hulu, and he's literally been on the Kardashians and American Horror Stories on Hulu. So, like, I think that it's all, like, one big thing. Like, they all, like, that's why because her show is on the Hulu as well. So I think it's all, like, one.
I think it just depends on who he has the contract with for the show.
Yes.
That's what I would guess.
So the show is called All's Fair. It's a drama series about a divorce lawyer in LA, and I think it's like an all-women firm. I believe Niecy Nash is in that one as well. She is also in all of Ryan Murphy's shows, but Sarah Paulson's in it, and it's just, again, it's like a little disturbing to me that like Kim Kardashian is lead, and I'd be all for it if she was a great actress, but maybe she's worked on it a little bit, but I think she's very fierce, and I think that that's what there's a difference between. This is one thing I'll say about like Ryan Murphy shows too, is like there's a difference between someone being sassy and fierce and also being a good actor. Those are two different things.
Yes, because, okay, I'm going to get, like, really, like, people are going to hate me for this, but we talked about The Uglies last week, and Laverne Cox plays a character in it. I do not think Laverne Cox is necessarily, like, a bad actress or a good one, but I was like, why is she in this role? It was such a weird role for her that it really just was like, it really took me out of it. I don't know.
Because you're like, this is Laverne Cox.
Yes, who is also very, like, fierce and, like, strong and, like, whatever.
She was good on Orange is the New Black, but I almost now, and she was good on that show, but I almost equate her too much with, like, she does, like, a lot of red carpet stuff now. It almost seems like she's more of, like, a personality than, like, an actor at this point.
And that's what I felt like. I felt when I watched, again, the whole entirety of The Uglies is bad.
I'm sure.
Bad movie.
I can't imagine it being good.
But I was just like, I felt like she was just kind of like playing herself.
Yeah.
In a dystopian universe as a mayor.
So, and that's the thing is, like, Ryan Murphy will get, like, people from, like, Real Housewives on his show. I'm being serious.
Because he's a huge fan of them.
He is. He's, like, a huge fan of, like, Bravo, anything with that. So, like, he'll get, like, Lisa Rinna, I think was in a season of American Horror Stories, which is that's a whole other
what?
thing. There's like an anthology series where each episode is a different.
Why does every series have to be named
By the way,
something?
can I say something really quick? I was really upset. I don't know if anyone will care about this, but speaking of American Horror Stories, because he was in the first episode, that's why I'm bringing it up. Stories. I'm putting the emphasis on the S.
Yeah. As you should.
I just want to say R.I.P. Gavin Creel. I don't understand. Shut up. I just want to say R.I.P. I just want to say R.I.P. Gavin Creel. He was a Broadway actor. Oh. I was a huge fan of his, or I am a huge fan of his. He was big on Broadway. He was also again, that's why I brought up this, because he was on American Horror Stories. He's just like he's amazing, very talented actor, and he passed away today. I'm just like really distraught about it. I found that out today, and I was really upset. I really love him.
Also, speaking of which, Maggie Smith passed away this past week.
Yes.
R.I.P. This
is our in memoriam.
In memoriam. Light a candle. We have them lit.
And I'm very upset about. Do you see? Sorry, this isn't funny, but people were holding up like wands. Are they wands?
What?
For Harry Potter?
Oh yeah.
It's funny because people are like, a lot of people like Matthew or like friend of the pod Megan were like really distraught over Maggie Smith dying, and I'm like, how do you guys know her? And then I forgot like Harry Potter, but I'm thinking Downton Abbey. Yeah. Like that's how I know her.
Also, she was in a bunch of stuff.
She is. I know.
That.
She is.
Yeah.
Obviously she's a legend, but I get thrown off when Matthew's like, Maggie Smith died, and I'm like, how do you know her?
I saw this tweet where it was like the professor came in and said something where he was like, oh my god, did you guys hear Maggie Smith died? But also there was a kid in the class who's named Maggie Smith
who had been absent.
Who was absent that day.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
what?
Whoa. Also, why'd you name your kid Maggie Smith? I would say it's
such a common name.
I don't know. I feel like she's a big enough actress.
True. My name was almost Maggie, so.
Margaret, yeah, I could see that for you.
Aw, you knew that already?
Not a Maggie, though. You would go by Margaret.
I could have gone by Molly, because Molly's also somehow a nickname for Margaret, which I don't get. I don't get it, but Molly Brown was Margaret Brown, so.
I don't understand, like, why do we get, like, the nickname Dick from Richard? Like
Bill from William. Where's the B coming from?
Show me a Billiam.
This was all just for me to talk about Gavin Creel. Actually, it was really for me to talk about American Horror Story. So I don't know how we got on this topic of names, but
why is Peggy a nickname for Margaret? Peggy.
I think it's also short for Elizabeth. Weirdly, I could be wrong about that.
It's just because I think it's because of when those names are popular, the accents were thick, and people were just like, "What are you saying? Sounds like Peggy." They were like, that's your name. Hell yeah. We'll go with that. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway, R.I.P. to all. This is our in memoriam. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah. Love Maggie Smith.
Yes.
Wonderful actress.
Yes.
R.I.P.
For real.
Well,
I just. Okay.
Do you have more to say about Kim?
No, just to finish up what I was saying, I'm very curious, but I'm not curious because I won't be watching. And I don't mean that in like a whatever way. I don't care. Like I
think it's like Tanya
said. I want to watch a show about a law firm. Like
also about like the Kardashians. I think they're trying to find like their new niche. It's like Tanya said on the last episode, like they've fallen out, I think, of not like there's public interest. Like people are tired of them. You know?
Yeah, I was saying, I'm just kidding. But it is true that like they're just too famous now. They're too much of personalities that they can't even really have fans anymore. I mean, they do have. I'm not saying they don't have fans, but I'm just saying like they don't. They do have to. It's almost like they're. And I think it's great that Kim is very hardworking. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think you necessarily. I think what she's doing with the reform stuff is great. Like that's awesome that she's using her, that she took the bar, she's trying to become a lawyer. She's following her dad's footsteps, which I think is really cool. I don't think acting it has to be her next avenue, and I can't sit through something that is bad acting. Like, I just can't.
Yeah. Also, hot take, I think Kim might be some of the most relatable of the Kardashians, because the thing about Kourtney is she's just out here eating her salads every day, like not giving her kids sugar or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think Khloe is as relatable as people think, because, I don't know, she has her own thing going on. But I just think, like, Kim is relatable in that, like, she very much shows, like, her good times and bad times. And there was a clip that really, like, I saw recently where she's talking about her, I guess, relationship with Kanye. She's talking to Chris, her mom, about it. And she says it's really hard because, like, I go pick up the kids and they're like, can we play Daddy's music? Let's play Daddy's music. And they're talking about how great Daddy is. And she's like, yeah. And she was like, the thing is, like, I am breaking, because Kanye was obviously like wild, you know?
Do you think she picks up her kids from school?
Or not, I don't even know if she said from school. Like, they get, like...
No. She did say that, and I'm wondering, do you think she really does? That's why, I was going to say, I don't want to, like, completely... I'm not saying she's a bad... I'm sure she's a great mother, but I don't think she's necessarily relatable.
No, but I think she's the most relatable of them. I would say it's, like, her and Kendall. Whereas Kendall, I think, is, like, very shy, whatever, but I think Kim is, like, these are my emotions, I'm going to show them. You know?
Yeah. What I don't like, here's what I'm just going to say. I don't like her take on, like, who, like, get up and work.
Oh, no.
Your job is not the same as other people's jobs.
No.
I think she's hardworking. I'm not saying she's not.
Yeah.
The fact that she could do a whole script of a TV show. She also, that's why I say, do you think she's really picking up her kids from school? She has nannies. She has help. And I don't think that that's necessarily relatable. So I kind of see both sides where I'm like, I get annoyed at the take of like, where she's like ranting about how hard she works and how people don't work hard anymore. No one wants to work these days. You don't work the same way that people do.
I guess what I'm saying is, like,
she doesn't have to work a day in her life, actually.
I shouldn't say she's relatable, like a normal relatable. I'm just saying, if you line up the Kardashian plan,
I agree. Yeah.
I would say she's the most relatable.
I was ranting on my own. I was just saying to what people say. I just don't like when she does that. And again, I do think she's hardworking in her own way. I think she's been able to build this brand, and I think that's great. But I don't like the whole thing of, like, her trying to be relatable to people, because I just don't think she can be.
Right. Yeah, and I don't think any of them can be when you're at that level. It's almost like when the royals try to be relatable, but I feel like they're sometimes better about it in a weird way. But it's just like, okay, well...
Interestingly, I think they're actually our closest to royalty.
Oh, they are. They are definitely American royalty.
Yeah.
Just
think about the way that people hate them is the way that people hate the royals, like on their, like...
Yeah. And I don't even hate the Kardashians. I think they did a lot for our culture.
Yeah.
And I think, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think there's whatever.
I sit there and watch their this is me saying all this stuff as somebody
I never watch the shows.
Sits there and watches them religiously. Like, I probably do. But I'm still somehow not, like, a fan of them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But... So I do kind of want to get into, this is kind of a heavy episode, I think, of...
We have a lot to say.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard, the P. Diddy was officially arrested on September 16th in New York on accusations of sex trafficking and racketeering. And so I don't know how much have you, like, heard about the case and etc.
Yeah.
And I think we talked about it on a previous episode. I don't know which one, but the main allegations, they come from multiple women, but his former partner, Cassie Ventura, who she had that really popular song in, like, 2006, 2007, but she had some very serious accusations of him, years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. And again, we have a previous episode where we really get into that. But what I think is interesting now is I think, like, Diddy is almost like a new Harvey Weinstein in that he's gonna, I think, bring down a lot of Hollywood with him.
I know. I'm curious. So, have you seen, like, who's in his photos and stuff of his part? So, for those who don't know, I mean, one of the things that they detail is something called that Diddy threw called freak-off parties. Yeah. Is that what it was called? Freak-off?
Yes. Which part of that is, if you've heard of, like, Diddy's infamous white parties, he would literally at the end be like, okay, some of y'all are going to leave and some of y'all are going to stay and, like, get wild or whatever.
And there's videos now emerging. In fact, I was literally watching Scary Movie yesterday. It's one of my favorite comedies. And they made a joke about his parties in that movie that came out in 2000.
I think I've known about his parties since I was probably 10 years old. Like, I knew, because I think they talk about it in White Chicks maybe or something. Like, they talk about Diddy's white parties a lot.
Yeah. And so if you look at photos from them, I mean, it's like J-Lo is in them.
Oprah.
In one episode of the Kardashians, Khloe is talking about it. Like, she was there.
Prince Harry.
Leonardo DiCaprio was there.
So Leonardo DiCaprio is interesting because Diddy always promoted him as his, like, number one guest. Like, that was, I guess, like, who he was proudest of to have there. And, I mean, Leo's not come out and said anything.
Which he never will. First of all, he's the most, like, recluse, like, Hollywood person ever. He's very, that man has some secrets. And this is something, I love Leonardo DiCaprio. It is one of my greatest this sounds stupid, but it's I don't really mean this, but it's like one of my greatest fears that I know will happen eventually is that some stuff is going to come out about him. And it's wild to me that it hasn't already.
Oh, yeah,
I think we know why, but, like, I just...
Yeah.
I think it's just... Yeah. I know something will at some point, because there's no way that he's has these connections with people... And you know.
And here's the thing. I'm not saying, like, everyone at Diddy's white parties were involved in these freak-offs, but the lack of people who have come forward and said anything, like, anything at all is interesting.
So did you see, one person who actually mentioned it on Hot Ones, the wing show. Ashton Kutcher, who mentioned, he was like, oh, I can't talk. He mentioned, I think Sean asked him about, can you talk about one of Diddy's infamous parties or something? He asked him something like that, and he goes, oh, I can't talk about those or something. Yeah. And did you see that Mila Kunis, I just saw a thing that Mila Kunis is, like, apparently moving out of his house.
Really?
Or moving out of their house.
Yeah. So I wrote down here, so Diddy and Kutcher had a longtime friendship, and he was, like, a regular attendee of the white parties and co-hosted the white party in 2009. But it also brings up his concerns because all that stuff with Danny McBride. Nope.
Oh, don't say that.
Cutting that.
Danny McBride, we love you.
Yeah. With Danny
Masterson.
Sorry, yeah, Masterson. Yeah. Has really gotten them canceled for, like, coming out and, like, support of that. But also, like, he supposedly did all this, like, work with, like, preventing child sex trafficking, and it's like, okay, well, you clearly have some sort of link to the Diddy
He's
thing.
on that stand crying his eyes out over it. I'm like, come on.
So what I think is most interesting is the link between Usher and Justin Bieber.
Yes.
So Usher was sent to live with Diddy in 1994, and Usher was around 15 at the time. He was working on his debut album, and he describes, and it's interesting because they always use these vague details that looking back on it is, like, interesting. So he described it as an eye-opening experience, specifically mentioning being introduced to sexual activities at Diddy's home. Yeah. Again, he's 15. So Usher hasn't really said anything about, like, Combs recently, but he once remarked that he wouldn't send his kids to live with him. And so he hasn't said anything about that. But, so as you may or may not know, Justin Bieber was signed to Usher's record label when he was, I think, 14 or 15. And so at the time, so the difference between Usher and Justin Bieber is Usher, his legal guardian was Diddy, technically, but
so wild.
Which is so crazy. Yeah. But Justin Bieber, so he didn't have legal guardianship of Justin Bieber, but there was 48 hours that Justin Bieber went to go stay with him, where it basically was like he was acting like his legal guardian. And so they are, like, on a video together that Justin Bieber has on his YouTube. Apparently it was still up on his YouTube. I don't know if it is right now, but where they say, like, they've spent a crazy 48 hours together, and to the camera Diddy says he's having 48 hours with Diddy. We were hanging out, and what we're doing we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I have been given custody of him. And so it's just like...
And meanwhile, the interviewer's probably like, yeah, like, tell me more. Like,
yeah, and he says, and we're going to go buck full crazy. Yeah. It's a 15-year-old. And
what would a man that age, however old Diddy was at that time, I don't even know, but what would a man that age have to do with a 15-year-old?
Exactly. Would
you want to hang out with a 15-year-old right now?
No. And I'm not that mature. So, like, you know what I mean? But, like, in all the stuff so people really, like, hated on Justin Bieber for a while because they were like, he's going crazy, like, he's having his party boy, he's just wearing sweats all the time. Once again...
He kind of had, like, a, you know, he's the typical, like, teen star if there's, like, if there's a picture in the dictionary.
And we've talked about this before, but I think, like, fame and childhood just do not mix well. But I don't think we know the extent of what Justin Bieber experienced.
No, and I have said this before, probably on the podcast too. He just seems like the saddest, loneliest person to me when I see, like, video. Like, I just feel so sorry for him,
because I think also, like, I think there was definitely some sort of abuse going on there. Absolutely. I mean, allegedly, but whatever.
It wasn't even just... I'm not even going to just put that on Diddy. Like, if you watch any interview with any, like, adult at that time, they all joke... And I want you to remember, like, if the roles were reversed, if this was a girl, and men were talking about a girl like that.
Yeah.
There's a video of Pink kissing up Justin Bieber's neck. Like, while he's like 15 or 16, he comes up on, they're on a stage. I don't know what this context is, but I think he's like, he's getting an award, or maybe she's getting an award that he presented. Either way, they're on stage and she grabs him and starts kissing up his neck. Pink, an adult, and Justin Bieber's like 15 or 16 at this time. It's disgusting. And like, again, if the roles were reversed, no way. Like, there'd be no way.
Right. It actually reminds me of a Ryan Murphy quote that I was reading earlier where he says, no one comes to Hollywood because they're, like, in a great mental state or have great parenting. And I'm not saying anything about Justin Bieber's mom. I think part of the problem is also, like, you know, when you don't come from this background of, like, fame, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know how to protect your kid.
You've seen this with, like, other stories where these kind of things were rumored to happen or happen. Like, people trust their kids with a celebrity because they're a celebrity and they're like, oh, nothing, you know, like whatever. Or they're just so blinded by the idea of fame and success that they're just like, yeah, go stay with this man, like grown man for 48 hours.
Yeah, if Leonardo DiCaprio was like, I want to take your child as a mentor, you'd kind of be like, oh my God, that's crazy. Yes. But then, like, when you look back on it, it's like, wow,
what were they thinking?
And I think Justin Bieber also has the loneliness aspect of being, like, the most famous person in the world. No one can understand that. At such a young age. Like, I don't think... Justin Bieber owes us nothing. Yes. If he wants to wear sweats and if he wants to put a traffic cone on his head and sit in the middle of the street...
Thank God he only got arrested once, really, when you think about it. Like, he is actually... really come out of this. I mean, he has a child now, he's married.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. I don't know the details of their relationship, but, you know, I think, like, at least he's trying to find, like, some stability and some sort of, like, what's the opposite of loneliness?
Connection.
Yeah, thank you.
Something, I don't know. Yeah. One less lonely boy.
Yeah. But, so to go back to Diddy, I think it's also crazy. I don't know if you heard they confiscated, it was 1,000 bottles of baby oil.
And they said that it was from Costco. And which Costco was like, we have never sold.
Yeah. Which it's like, what is, like, even if they did, what are they going to be like?
Why would you throw, I love that their first thought was, okay, we got to think of, like, bulk orders. Like, Costco, just someone said Costco.
Costco was probably like, hell yeah, we just sold 1,000. Like, they're not like, wow, this is weird. I don't know. Like Costco's not doing that, you know?
Yeah, Costco said, they were like, we have never sold that. Yeah, no. They were like, you're not dragging
we
our
actually
names
don't
into
even
this.
sell baby oil. No, just kidding.
We're actually, who are you? We're not a store.
Actually, we're Walmart. So I just think it's interesting. And I also think another interesting aspect is, a quote-unquote book memoir came out about him. It's called Kim's Last Words. It's a memoir by Kim Porter, who is his deceased ex-girlfriend, and he has 3 children with her, and he has a son from a previous marriage, or she does, and Diddy adopted her son. But, so the memoir is based on a flash drive that Kim had left behind after her 2018 death, and so people, like, she died of pneumonia, I think it was at age 47. I'm not, don't, like, quote me on that because I don't know off the top of my head. But so she left this on the flash drive, and also contains tapes of Diddy with celebrities in sexual situations. So in it, she recounts, like, all of the abuse and violence and lays out, like, an elaborate series of, like, partner swaps and sexual experimentation with, like, different celebrities. And she also kind of appears to have predicted her own death by ending the memoir by saying, you know, as she falls ill, she texts her friends and she says, he got me, basically. But multiple friends and loved ones have claimed that it's fake. There's nothing really to say that it is real. However, so I don't know, like, the details behind that, but I do find it interesting that this has surfaced, and it has, I think, become a bestseller on Amazon for understandable reasons. I mean, considering
whether it's true or not, there's just so much against. I want to see this man go down.
Yeah,
that video alone of him, the hotel video that was released. Yeah. By the way, screw those hotel people too for keeping that video. Like, ew. But anyway, the video that was released of him dragging Cassie back to the room when she is trying to escape. First of all, it is like a nightmare watching that video, because to me, the scariest thing is trying to escape from someone in a hotel. There's nowhere to go. She's trying to run to the elevator, and he's like in his towel. He runs out, drags her back, just like beats, like just completely beats the shit out of her in the hall. Like, it is just so awful to me. I can't wait to see this man go down. But I also do think he's going to be bringing some people down with him.
Well, and that's why someone asked me, why did it take so long to arrest him? And, like, this is unconfirmed. This is just me, like, kind of thinking about it. But I would guess because the thing is, as soon as you arrest someone and it comes to light, it's much harder to, like, find other evidence, find, like, other culprits, whatever. So my guess is they were trying to get all of that, like, ahead of time before the arrest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I mean, we all knew it was coming. He deserves, it's bad.
He deserves to go down.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, just on a lighter note, I've been watching The Penguin, which is, like, a spin-off series of the new Batman movies. And starring Colin Farrell. He plays the Penguin. It is, by the way, have you seen what he looks like as the Penguin?
Can I tell you something?
You don't know what Colin Farrell looks like?
No, I do. Something about that show, whenever I watch the trailer, makes me angry. Something about it is like, I fucking do not want to see anything.
You don't care about that. You don't care about
I don't, but I didn't even know it was a DC show at first. I was like, what is this show?
Alexa, it is so good.
Okay.
So first of all, I love Batman. Batman's my favorite superhero. I love Marvel movies, but like Batman, and I don't care about like the DC universe because I think most of those movies are awful.
Yeah.
But anything with Batman, like, I loved the Dark Knight series, but I'm gonna say, like, the Robert Pattinson Batman was very good, and Colin Farrell played the Penguin in that movie, and he was good. He's so unrecognizable. It's like insane.
What is his, like, you know how like villains have like a thing?
Yeah.
What's his thing?
So I think. So in the Batman movie, he's sort of seen as like, Colin Farrell described the character as like sort of a red herring. Like it's supposed to throw you off the whole like, cause it's a whole like, it's a mystery. The Batman, the movie with Robert Pattinson, they kind of lean into like him being a detective sort of. There's like the detective Batman.
Okay.
And they kind of lean into that. And so he's trying to solve the murder. Whatever, it's a long story. But anyway, so the Penguin is supposed to kind of throw you off of like, oh, maybe it's him. But he basically runs like this lounge called like the Iceberg Lounge. It's a club.
Okay. And
he's very like shady. He's underground. He works with Carmine Falcone, which is he's like a mob boss basically. Well, the show is about the Penguin because, spoiler alert, in the Batman, Carmine Falcone goes down. Yeah. So the Penguin is basically about him trying to sort of take over that place. But the problem is Carmine's daughter is now trying to come in and also take that place. So it's like the two of them are sort of like not fighting for it because she thinks that he's on her side. It's like, it's very like, people are comparing it to The Sopranos.
I was gonna say, it feels like Sopranos
and Succession. It's so good. It is such a good show. Like I'm watching it and I'm literally forgetting like they don't really mention Batman ever, but like whenever they mention anything that's sort of to do with like the Batman universe, I'm like, wait, what? Like I forget that I'm watching like a Batman show.
Interesting.
It is so good. Also, I am obsessed with Colin Farrell. He is my man of the week. I'm just going to put that out there.
You're Farrell for Farrell?
I'm Farrell for Farrell. He is so fine. To the point where, Alexa, it's a problem. Hear me out.
Are you writing him fan mail?
No. Hear me out.
I wouldn't put it past you.
Like, I'm watching... No. It's a hear me out. It's a bad hear me out.
Oh, okay.
I'm, like, watching the show, and it doesn't look like Colin Farrell, but somehow I am still attracted to this man. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not shocked by that. You have some interesting crushes, and I'm not saying that in a judgmental way. I'm just saying, like,
shocked.
It tracks.
I'm shocked at myself.
I'm not. I feel like that's accurate for you. But that's okay.
Colin
like
Farrell
who you
is
like.
So fine.
Yeah. I think it's true
I
love.
Think part of me, because I'm like, the Penguin is so unrecognizable. Like, he's so unrecognizable as a Penguin. But then at some points, I'm like, that's Colin Farrell's face.
Who do you think is the hottest superhero?
The hottest superhero?
Yeah. Because I feel like villains are tough sometimes. Because I
have a lot of hot villains, though. Okay. The hottest superhero, I would maybe say, like, Iron Man. I would say maybe Tony Stark.
Okay, I was going to say that, too. No. Well, also I haven't seen enough, but...
I know who mine is.
Who?
Doctor Strange.
Okay. I also really liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
Yes.
I will say he's my favorite Spider-Man.
So,
I also...
Really?
Well, I guess, like, what is it? Tobey
Maguire?
Yeah. I was...
What is it? The like, OG Spider-Man.
Well, no, I just was like Jerry Maguire, Tobey Maguire. They got confused in my head for a second. Like, he's the one that I grew up with, but I just don't think...
I know.
I'm not really attracted to him. I just think of
I'm not
that
attracted to him
zoom
either.
in on him during the Gatsby movie where he's just
too.
like...
Also, like, the original Spider-Man, like, I can appreciate them, but they are a little goofy.
Yeah, and also I feel like he talks with a lot of spit. Whereas I feel like Andrew Garfield is like a hot nerd.
He's so hot.
His hair gets so hot.
And then Tom Holland, who I love...
Oh, yeah. I didn't see this.
And I'm gonna... Yeah, hold on, I got something to say. But anyway, the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man is, to me, a little bit more... He kind of fits the age, I would say. So I love Tom Holland Spider-Man. But speaking of which, if I hear that if one more person comes up to me and goes, "Do you watch the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies?" I am going to lose it.
Why? I don't understand why you are so upset that people say you look like that girl. She's a very pretty, clean-looking girl.
She is, but
it's just the hair, I think.
She kind of...
And, like, a general demeanor of niceness.
She is pretty. I do take it as a compliment.
You don't, but it's okay.
But I guess because I think she's, like, in the Spider-Man movies at least, she's just kind of a nerd. She also is, like, she's Katie in the Mean Girls musical movie. So it's, like, again, she's just kind of always, like, a nerd. You know what I mean? I'm like, do I look like a nerd?
I think she's very cool, like, in well, I haven't seen the new Mean Girls, but the clips that I see of it, I don't think she's a nerd. I think she's just, like, a nice, like, follow the rules type of girl, which I think,
Andrew Rice, I think that's how you say her name. If you're listening, I do think you're really pretty. I'm taking it as a compliment, but it is wild how many times I've heard that I look like her. But when I don't see it, I just don't see it.
Here's the thing, it's the hair, because when I see her in Mean Girls, I would not say that she looks like you. But that picture that you sent of her in Spider-Man, I mean, I think it's just the hair. And, like, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Well, I got layers this time, so no one can say it's choppy.
I knew.
Just saying.
I knew.
Just saying.
I knew you were gonna... Okay.
No, I'm kidding. But anyway,
Shout out to Tanya.
I literally was like, I told my hairdresser, I was like, I've been getting bullied for my hair being choppy, so can we just put some layers in this hair?
The next morning, so for context, we had it on pause, and Tanya suggested that Molly get layers in her hair. But she said it in, like, the worst way possible, and she kept digging her own grave, and then she kept apologizing. She hugged you 3 times.
She did. Next day, I know she felt bad.
She felt really bad. The next day she woke up, the first thing she said, she was like, Molly hates me now.
I knew. I actually knew.
And I said, she doesn't hate you, but she probably will think about this every day for the rest of her life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't just her, though. It was, like, the first person who said it to me, I was like, I thought about it for the rest of the days. Yeah. And then when I kind of jokingly brought it up to you guys, she, like, said, Molly, like, I love you, but, like, your hair is choppy.
She literally, she started out, she was like, Molly, you are so beautiful. And you said, oh, and she was like, but it's choppy. And I was like, I literally was like, we have been drinking too much. She just was digging it.
Yeah.
She was digging her grave.
I know. And I know she meant it in bad.
She did. And she meant it in, like, a nice way. She was like, your hair is so beautiful.
I know. I'm not actually mad, but I was kind of like, okay, damn, I guess I'll get some layers.
And she just, like, I literally was just like, okay, Tanya, okay. All right. Anyways, great episode. Go listen to it.
But yeah, okay. One thing I really want to, and I'm not actually mad, I'm like joking about the hair thing. But anyway, I just want to quickly go back to the Penguin because I just got to say, like, I just love Colin Farrell. But one thing I got to say, this actually, I'm not kidding, Alexa, this threw me for a loop. Did anybody know that Gotham took place in New Jersey?
Makes sense. After watching The Joker for the first time and the hell that city is, I thought it was
true.
I thought it was like an allegory for New York.
So my whole life, I've been thinking that Gotham was not in any place. Like I thought it was just supposed to be like New York City, like
Minnesota.
a fictional. Well, like a fictional New York City or a fictional Chicago. For some reason, I think of Chicago when I think of... Because I think at one point they did film The Dark Knight, one of the Dark Knight movies, like, in Chicago.
It's probably because they have the Batman... Oh, wait, no, that's Tennessee.
Well, he filmed on the top of the Sears Tower. So I think, I've just always thought it was sort of Chicago, sort of New York City, but not actually a real city. No, come to find out... In the first episode of The Penguin, they show somebody's license, and it says Gotham, New Jersey.
It makes sense. It can't be in New York. We already have New York, you know?
But I couldn't. And then people were like, what, New Jersey? And somebody said that apparently canonically, it does take place in New Jersey. I didn't know that.
Canonically. Get out of here with that shit. Canonically.
In 28 years, I've never known that. And
take your canon somewhere else.
Take your canon out of here.
It's in New York, bitch, okay?
It is, because, so it makes sense, though, because they're like a mob. You know, they all have like, Carmine Falcone.
I feel like it's been in New York.
Salvatore Moroni.
Until this show, and then they were like, we gotta make it Jersey Shore, we gotta make it make sense.
Canonically, it's New Jersey.
They're like, where are the Italians?
So it makes sense, because they all are like Italian, like, yeah. So
I wish I were like a New Jersey Italian. They seem
I was just in New Jersey last week, and I was like, no one told me that Bruce Wayne lives. Can you believe that Bruce Wayne lives in New Jersey?
Can you imagine just like the Welcome to New Jersey sign, and then underneath it says Home of Bruce Wayne?
You're telling me the Joker is from New Jersey?
I believe that. Only a
don't.
place like Jersey produces a Joker.
Sorry, New Jersey, but
Jersey
I was
Joker.
just in your state, and I
don't think
it's New Jersey.
We're not the people to say the worst about New Jersey. One time I was in like on the line of New York and New Jersey, and we were on the New Jersey side, and all these dead fish just came up in the water, and they were like, well, that's how you know you're in New Jersey.
No, let me tell you, I went to New Jersey Monday. I could not have gotten out of that state fast enough. I literally rebooked, I changed my flight to Wednesday night. It was supposed to be Thursday, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I left like Wednesday night. I'm sorry, New Jersey.
The travel for work, and it's like the Welcome to Genovia, and it's like a parking lot.
Do you know how many times people told me to make that TikTok?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't, because I don't.
You sent me and Tanya a text of it, though, and I appreciate it.
I did. I said I said it in a text, but I didn't make the TikTok. Yeah.
But yeah. So speaking of Joker, so I watched all of it, but the last 30 minutes, I finished the last 30 minutes today. So I'm like fully caught up on it, because we did movie assignments 2 weeks ago. Forgot to talk about them.
Forgot what I watched.
Dead Poet Society.
Okay, sorry.
But so I would say the Joker is very good. I think DC, the difference between DC and Marvel, I think Marvel is like fun, feel good. DC is like, we're going to show you pain.
So yes, DC has always been darker.
And
Marvel
I like that.
has like, we always, like Matthew and I always say like, that's such like Marvel humor. Like there's always just like whatever, but like DC is dark. I think DC
You would not have Joaquin Phoenix in a Marvel movie. You know?
No, you wouldn't. But I will say, like, I think DC is good when it's, like, its own thing. So, like I said, the Batman or the Penguin, whatever. Like, these are good things. I don't like when it's the universe of, like, Suicide Squad. Those are
so
stupid.
bad,
I'm just going to say, like, I don't care who directs it, who's taking over as director.
Because Suicide Squad felt like it almost had, like, a Marvel eye on it. Whereas, I feel like Joker, like, the Batman movies, these are, like, Christopher Nolan, like, these are high art movies.
Yes.
And I don't mean to hate on Marvel, because I've literally seen one movie. But
well, Marvel can be like Marvel is its own thing. I think it is good, but I just
And you know what? Can I just say fuck Wonder Woman?
Yeah, I don't care about Wonder Woman.
When I watched that, everyone was like, this is a feminist, like,
no.
whatever.
The second one got annihilated.
Well, the first one I watched, I was like, they've never made a woman look dumber in a film. And the only reason she does anything at the end, like, the whole big saving thing is because the guy she likes is in danger. I'm like, okay, we have to have a different motivation for a woman other than, like, oh, she's in love with a man.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Wonder Woman.
No.
But not because of any, like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
But
I thought Joaquin Phoenix did very
anyway,
well.
I do so I told Alexa it was a couple weeks ago now, but I told our movie assignments, I told Alexa to watch Joker because we're going to see the sequel.
Yeah.
We are. With Lady Gaga, which probably just as controversial. The first Joker got a lot of like mixed reviews. So I was curious to see how you felt about it, but you said you liked it.
Yeah, I did. I can see like why Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar for it.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, it didn't feel like well, I guess he's not a superhero, but you know, it didn't feel like a superhero movie.
It didn't feel like a DC movie, yeah.
Yeah, I really liked it. But yeah, so I watched Joker, you watched Dead Poet Society. So before you get into Dead Poet Society, I also want to like bring in a new aspect of this like assignments where
should we do some today? Or no?
I mean, I guess it's been like 2 weeks. I had one and now I can't think of it for you. Oh, I do know what I want you to watch.
Okay,
it's going to be very disturbing, but you'll like the lead actor.
I love disturbing.
I don't know. Anyways, okay, but I have one for you. But I also want to propose that we can do this with shows where it's like you have to watch 2 or 3 episodes of a show because that's about the length of, I think, a movie, depending on, unless it's like
Alright,
a crazy
I got
show.
one for you then. Okay. Continue.
But mine is gonna be a movie, but I want to hear about Dead Poet Society, your thoughts. We watched this together.
I'm gonna keep it real with you, and you probably already know this, but so literally right after we recorded the episode where we did our movie assignments, we watched it right after. We went downstairs, ate dinner, and watched Dead Poet Society. As Alexa says, I'm gonna be honest, it was, I found it really boring at first. Like, the first, half, I was just like...
You have to be into, the aesthetic of it.
Which, I think... Okay, so one thing Alexa pointed out was that it's kind of a shame that, I'm watching it now that it's become such a, zeitgeist. It's become such a,
It's the same thing when we had you watch The Ring, and you're like, well, other movies have done
I know,
this. I was like,
it's
but this is
it
the
doesn't
first
have
one.
that, I know. So anyway, so when I was watching, I was just like, yeah, the aesthetic, it's fall, it's good. But oh my god, the third act of the movie took such a turn. Yeah. I was so horrified. And by the way, I'm sitting here watching this movie where, first of all, the
spoilers, but also it's been out for a billion years.
Spoilers, but also trigger warning.
And trigger warning.
Trigger warning. So the one character, I don't remember his name. But he's the one who wanted to be an actor. He was in the Shakespeare play that Robin Williams was, encouraging him to be an actor. And he tells his dad, I want to be in this play. And his dad is like, no, that's for whatever. You're not going to be in a play. No son of mine is going to be an actor. Neil.
He plays Neil.
Yeah. No son of mine is going to be an actor. Long story. Oh, and then after the play, he's done so well. Standing ovation. His dad comes and sees him. And, you think it's all good. He goes home and his dad is like, you're going to a military school. And he is distraught by this news. And I'm not kidding. It's a 45-minute scene.
Okay, it's
a 15-minute scene.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a 7-minute scene.
Yeah. Where
he goes upstairs and Alexa's like, you might want to watch this part. Because I'm on my phone at this point. Alexa's like, you might want to watch this part. And I watch. I'm not kidding. I asked her 8 times. I'm like, Alexa, is he about to kill himself? Is he, please tell me if he's about to kill himself because I'm going to be triggered. And you can't see my face right now, but Alexa is literally smiling the whole time.
I wasn't smiling. I just get uncomfortable. I hate when people watch things that I've already seen and they're like, does this happen?
But I wanted a warning. I was so upset. I was seriously so upset because he looks like they kind of do a little weird trick thing where he's about to maybe jump out the window and he doesn't. And then he goes downstairs and he shoots himself.
It's a long scene, and the scene where his parents find him.
It was awful. And they're
so...
it's the dad is my son, and I felt bad for the dad in the moment, even though he sucked as a human.
And the mom keeps going he's okay, he's all right, he's all right. Because it is. I literally was starting to shed a tear.
No, I was horrified.
It's horrifying, but it's also I think very well done.
It is. No, it is
right there.
But I was just where did this movie end up? I did not think it was that kind of movie. And then
and
then Ethan Hawke's reaction, cute little Ethan Hawke when he was whatever how old he was. He's all upset and everybody's upset. Then Robin Williams' character gets fired. I'm like, what? Which I knew because I've seen the scene where they're all standing on the desk, but it was a very moving movie by the end of it. But I will say
it takes a while. It takes a while
because I was bored in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh my gosh, this movie is heavy.
Yeah, it is heavy. So. And I think, the thing is people like it because I think it's very inspiring, especially in the beginning when he's look at the faces of these people. They were the same as you. They had, the same dreams, the same hopes. What are you going to do about it? I think that's very inspiring because it is true.
So I do think, sometimes I think Robin Williams' character kind of stepped over the line a little bit. I'm just being realistic. I'm taking myself out of, the movie and just being if I were a parent, I'd be I just don't feel like teachers should speak to students in that way of being go against your parents. And he's being a good person. He's being encouraging. I get that. But I'm also in some ways I was a little bit maybe he's a little out of line. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I think he didn't realize the full extent of maybe the situation with his dad.
Yeah, I'm not blaming him for that. I just was saying I was
the school did.
Yeah, the school, and then the dad sucked again. I was like, come on now.
Yeah, but
anyway.
So my movie assignment for you this time is The Last King of Scotland. So it was hang on.
Is that the one with James McAvoy that you said?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's what I was like, you're going to enjoy.
What is it on? Is it not? Because remember we have to.
Oh yeah, let's see. Hang on.
Why do I have a feeling it's not on anything?
It has Forrest Whitaker, James McAvoy, Kerry Washington, Gillian Anderson is in it.
What?
It came out a long time ago.
Oh.
I remember watching this, like, when it first came out.
Unfortunately, it is not streaming on anything.
It's not? I'll rent it from the movie theater, or from the library for you. I'll find a way for you to watch it, and I'll
I mean, I could be like, I'll pay the $3, but I'm also like...
I'll pay you $3 to watch it, because I want to know what you think.
It's not fair that I have to pay for some. I'm joking.
We'll literally go downstairs and watch it right after this. I don't care. But that's what I think.
Is it modern time?
Yeah.
Oh.
There's a whole reason why it's called that, but yeah. I don't want to, like, say too much.
Okay.
I don't want to give
well,
away.
I like the actors in it. I love James McAvoy.
It's disturbing.
I love disturbing.
Not in the way Midsommar is.
I know.
Okay.
I'm reading the plot. I see why you're saying it's disturbing.
Plot. Why are you
not
doing
that?
The Still.
That's Alexa. I'm not allowed to know what it's about.
No.
That makes
You didn't know what
sense.
Dead Poet Society was about.
Yes, I did. I knew it's about a club in a boys' school called Dead Poet Society. Thank you. Okay, well, so since we're doing TV shows,
okay,
and I think you know what I'm gonna say, or maybe not. Your assignment is to watch the first. Okay, how long is King of Scotland? The dead silent, the crickets and the literal crickets. I'm trying to figure out how many episodes to tell you to watch. Okay, your assignment is to watch the first 2 episodes of American Horror Story.
I was going to do that anyways, because we promised our friend of the podcast,
okay, first
Hornsby,
3 episodes.
I said I would watch it, but I like to save my scary shows until October.
It's
which
October.
There are a lot of scary shows coming out, and I'm very excited.
What else?
I take a screenshot, and I have an album on my phone called Potential Entertainment that I filter them all into. Sorry, I literally opened it. It's just so many pictures of my ankle.
I like that's an album and not like a notes. Like, I love that there has to be a photo.
This is why I have like no memory on my phone. It's all just screenshots of things I want to watch. I don't know how to say this, but Caddo Lake. It's a horror mystery with is
that Dylan O'Brien?
Yeah, Dylan O'Brien, who I think is the hottest actor to come out of Teen Wolf. Loved him.
I don't really care. So he's gonna be in Saturday Night, you know.
Oh yeah, he is.
He plays Dan Aykroyd.
The show called Hysteria about the satanic panic on
What
Peacock.
Are these? Salem's Lot as well.
Yes, and then one that I sent to you guys. It has the actress from Fallout in it, and that's on
I just
Stars. Sweet Pea, yeah, I want to see that.
She's good. I like her.
I think like my October is really booked, y'all.
So I did watch. The only thing I can think of other than Salem's Lot is Grotesquerie, which again I watched.
I won't be watching that.
You know, it was quite boring. It was quite boring.
I don't think it got good reviews, did it?
I don't know, but the first 2... So I watched the first 2 episodes because they both came out on Hulu, and I just watched it. I'm going to be honest, bringing it back to Menendez Brothers, I watched it for the actor that plays Lyle, because I think he's really hot. He is, and he plays a priest, so obviously I watched it. But, a little boring. He's only in the second episode, so they tricked me.
I believe it.
Ryan Murphy personally tricked me.
I have a question for you, and I don't want you to be offended by this question.
I'm probably gonna be offended.
What shows or content do you consume that are like...
I have an answer for you.
Female-based things. That are like female-based cast. The stories are female-oriented.
That is very offensive to me. No, I'm not. I can tell why you're asking.
I'm genuinely asking because when I recommend things to you, I'm like always curious. I'm like, I don't know if she's gonna like this. Because, and I'm not saying, like, I think you very much enjoy female stories. That's not what I'm saying.
Female cast-oriented? Well, I can't think of, like, something like an all-female cast. Well, like, the first thing that comes to mind is, like, Fleabag.
Okay.
I watched Orange is the New Black. That was basically an all-female cast. What else? Well, give me an example. I just can't think of examples right now.
Well, I just always think of Hacks or, like, Dairy Girls or whatever, but, like, that's fine. Or...
Yeah, well, those are the 2 that you showed me, and I wasn't really into them.
But I was just curious, because when I, recommend you things, I do try to think, I'm like, okay...
It's true, but I like shows if they're genuinely good. And I'm not saying those 2 weren't good. I think they were. I personally just didn't...
I want to clarify, I think you have very good taste in, like, television and media. Again, I was just thinking about it earlier... Because I'm like, okay, what should I recommend to this person? To you, my good friend, who I care about. Speaking of female-oriented shows... I don't know. If you
name things, I'll just tell you whether... But it has
to be A League of Their Own, the new show.
No, but let me tell you why. A League of Their Own, the movie, is one of my favorite movies.
I love A League of Their Own, the movie. I loved the show, too.
So when they came out with the show, I just was kind of like, No, because I love the movie so much that I'm like, I'm so attached to that cast that I couldn't imagine a show. And this isn't, you're going to get very mad at me when I say this.
Go ahead.
You're going to fight me on this. It did get canceled. So, like, and I know good things get canceled. I'm not saying they don't. Yeah. But, like, that's kind of tells me, like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, I can't remember if we talked about this, but there were a couple things that really pissed me off that they got canceled. We talked about My Lady Jane, but also that show, The Chair, with Sandra Oh, that basically is like she's the chair of an English department. It was on Netflix. It was a great show. It had one season, amazing reviews, got canceled. The Bob Odenkirk show got canceled. Lucky Hank. It was really good. Watch the first season.
I watched the first episode.
It's a great first season,
There's nowhere for me to watch it. The first episode's on YouTube, and that's it.
It really pisses me off.
So if you give me examples, I just can't think, like, give me examples of, like, female-led shows. And I will tell you, but
You watched Broad City, you liked that.
Yeah, I love Broad City.
Who doesn't, really?
Yeah.
Great show, bring it back.
Parks and Rec is a female-led show.
Yeah.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah. I was just curious, because I want to know, like, what,
I don't know. It has to be, wouldn't you agree that you probably lean more towards comedy than drama? This has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but wouldn't you agree that you probably are more into comedy? So sometimes I think, like, when you recommend shows to me, it's more comedies.
I don't know. I guess so.
I feel that way, but I'm not sure.
Maybe. I like things that are a mix of both. Yeah. You know, because I'm not dark comedies. I like dark comedies, or, like, I think of, like, I really loved The Good Place, which is a comedy, but it had, like, a lot of depth to it. But I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm not like a what is it, Brooklyn 911 fan or whatever. Like, I'm not, you know.
I'll be honest, I was shocked that you said you watched I didn't know that you watched the Menendez Brothers.
Well, after you said you had finished it, I was like, well, we're going to talk about it on the podcast. Let's have something to talk about.
I love that.
Something to talk about. Anyways, but speaking of female-led shows, Emily in Paris Part 2 came out. I don't have a lot to say about it, except for it was just as bad as the first half of the season, and I will be watching the next season. And I think what's interesting is so first of all, one of the things is they never talk about her family or her past. She literally goes from Chicago to Paris. They never mention, I've got a phone call from my mom, or I've got blah, blah, blah. Like, it's literally like she just came out of thin air. Emily in Paris. That's her whole purpose. Except for the season. She was supposed to go home to visit her family in Chicago. It got snowed in. Whatever. I guess it's a plot spoiler, but there's really no plot to this show. And that's it. And I'm just finding that very interesting that it somehow works. Despite the fact that it's like she has no friends from her past, no family from her past that she ever speaks of. But I also really love this line. So they're talking about, they're doing marketing for this Italian coffee company, and she goes, sorry, I'm a Starbucks girly, and she basically says something, it's like the pumpkin spice latte or whatever, and the French guy goes, you don't like coffee, you like sugar. And I was like,
oh, me.
I was like, yeah, I feel seen. That's me. That's me pouring the sugar into my coffee.
Wow.
And you know what? Nothing wrong with that.
It is true, though, because I do think, like, people always say good coffee doesn't need creamer.
They're wrong.
Well, they're probably right, but unfortunately we don't know good coffee, like really good coffee. Yeah, but that's true. I don't really care. Like, I just want my Dunkin' iced coffee. You know what I mean?
I just need something to make me feel alive. Exactly. You know? But yeah, so Emily in Paris, I will be watching the next season. And also, I'll be honest, it is a bad show. It is poorly written. However, I was like, should I rewatch this? Because it's so pretty. It's so, Lily Collins, the outfit she wears is pretty. The locations are pretty. Everyone's so pretty in the show.
All right. So I believe you.
You know what? And I think that's what it has going for it. But, yeah.
I don't know how this got moved down, but the number one topic I actually wanted to talk about today, other than Menendez Brothers, was Chappell Roan.
Oh, yes. I think it got moved down because I put literally a novel under the P. Diddy section of information.
That's okay. That was probably a little bit more important. I really don't want... I mean, I hate to, like, really focus on this because I think at this point... Here's the thing. I don't know if you know a lot about the Chappell Roan situation, but for those who don't know, Chappell Roan, she canceled her performance at All Things Go very last minute. She was supposed to perform the 28th and the 29th, and she canceled it on the 27th.
So Tanya was supposed to go to that show.
Yeah, so was Kirsten.
Yeah, she sold her ticket.
And Tanya.
Yeah.
She sold her ticket?
Yeah.
So Kirsten went, and I think she did see somebody, I forgot who it was, who did end up performing, but... She said it was very good. But anyway, so I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I don't have so the thing is, I hate to like, I really hate to kick somebody when they're down, because I think like a lot of people have this same take at this point on Chappell Roan. And I think when it comes to mental health, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, whatever. Like, I don't want to have like a ton of takes on this, but I do want to follow up on what I was already kind of saying last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was before the reality show episode. That I think that Chappell Roan to me is sort of the Gen Z stereotype. And I think we were kind of getting into this a little bit. But I'm actually, at this point, I really am like, it's a boomer opinion, but I gotta say, like, we need to stop using mental health as an excuse for everything. Yeah. This was her job. Mm-hmm. And basically what happened, just to give kind of some context, but so she announced that she was canceling her performance, like I said, the day before her performance. If you're telling me she didn't know that before, I don't know. I don't know what the situation was, but I'm just saying. The
thing is, the day before is, I think, what really got me, because there were a lot of people, it's like, oh, I
flew across the country to see her.
Like $1,000 to see her. And again, you know, I think it not to compare her with like Simone Biles, where she was like, oh, I couldn't perform. Right. She was like literally
like a danger situation. Yeah.
But it's just like, but at the same time, she has become incredibly famous incredibly quickly. Yeah.
Yes. And that is true. And I think like her announcement said, I feel pressures to prioritize a lot of things right now, and I need a few days to prioritize my health. I want to be present when I perform and give the best shows possible. Understandable. However, I think that it needs to be said that, like, this is coming off of her being widely criticized for basically her stance on the election and not openly endorsing Kamala.
Yeah. She basically said, she was like, both sides have issues or something like that, which is like,
okay. And I don't think, here's the thing, we really shouldn't be making a decision on who we should vote for. And I've said this before, some people disagree, but I don't think we should ever be basing our decision on who we should vote for based on a celebrity saying it. Yeah. Any celebrity. I don't think, like, I think we should be able to think for ourselves, which is actually what she was saying in her video. Yeah. So she made like a reaction video, which, first mistake, you don't have to respond to everything. Yeah. Let's stop responding. Her video was all over the place. I don't know where her PR team is. Mm-hmm. Her PR team needs to really like get her. They need to get it together, because her PR team was not in her corner that day. But she basically woke up and immediately responded to the criticism she was getting. And she was just like, at one point, she literally just went, and Palestine. Like, that's all she said. And I was like, do you know what you're talking about? Like, and again, I'm not.
I think she probably not. I mean, maybe she didn't, but I don't think, like, some celebrities, again, like, we expect them all to like voice their opinions and have these thoughts on things. And sometimes I'm like, why? Like, that's not what they're doing here.
And she was encouraging. She was like, I think you need to make a decision for yourself. I actually 100% agree with that. But I also think, like, you know, she's always been a champion of equality. Mm-hmm. She's an LGBTQ supporter. And so for her, like she said, there's problems on both sides, like you said. Yeah. And like I said, I think it's important that she says, like, people need to think for themselves. But again, like, you can't always use mental health as a way out of everything. Yeah. And like that, we can maybe call out of work a day to prioritize our mental health. It should be the same thing, but it's not. Because again, people have traveled across the country to see her. Yeah. And you know, I mean, she didn't explicitly say this, but like, I think it's very clear that that's what it was about, over the backlash that she was receiving. I just want to point, and people have pointed this out, and I'm not comparing, I am comparing, but Katy Perry found out that Russell Brand was divorcing her. Mm-hmm. This was in her documentary. She found out minutes before she went out on stage during her concert, that Russell Brand was divorcing her. And she still went up on that stage with a smile on her face.
I mean, it's the same, like Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake broke up with her via text, and then she went and recorded the most iconic music video of all time. Now, I'm not saying that should be the standard.
No.
But it's also, like, at the same time, I don't know. And I think it's interesting, like, you brought up this point, and actually a couple of other people separately in my life have brought up this point, where it's like, she's kind of already gotten backlash for the political views, the yelling at the photographers, and kind of just, like, I don't know, general things, and she's so new to the scene.
She's so new, and she's operating on a level as if she's been like a legend for years. And that's what I don't like. It's like immediately when we talked about it a couple weeks ago when she was acting that way on the red carpet at the VMAs, I was like, something about that just didn't sit right with me, because I was like, you're new still. Like, have some decorum. You can set boundaries. Don't get me wrong. Set boundaries. But also have some decorum. Like, you're not at that level yet.
And I think, like, the difference is, like, are you Gen Z or millennial?
I'm actually on the cusp.
Okay.
No, I'm, like, literally on the cusp.
But I think, like, the difference is, like, so I'm millennial. I would say, like, you are more millennial-leaning just in terms of the content.
I would say my opinion's probably a very boomer opinion.
Yeah, I think mine is, too. And I think, like, Gen Z would see it as, like, why does she have to be in the industry for years to demand respect? And I understand that. You don't have to have done something for years to, like, people always say respect is earned. I do think, like, you should just respect people in general.
Yes.
But also I think the way she goes about it, like, I'm gonna sneeze.
Bless you.
Thank you. I love Chappell Roan's music. I just love how fun and inviting is. Like, I want to go see a Chappell Roan show. But I think when you are in the profession that she is in, where she's been working at this for years. Like, this is the profession you are actively entering into. You are going to have to perform shows, like, when times are tough and things are hard. And I don't know, like, the full extent of what's going on with her. Maybe there's things we don't know.
No, we don't know. That's true.
Like, you know, and the thing is, you know, I will devil's advocate say, you know, sometimes you go into things and you don't realize how it's going to be.
She got famous very fast.
Yes. But it's also, like, I think I could see her falling out of, not favor, but, like, taking a step back from the fame, because she really seems to not enjoy it.
Well, my thing is, like, and this was the best take, kind of just the overall thing, is, like, no one is forcing you to be a pop star.
Yeah.
No one is forcing you to be a pop star. And, like, that's what kind of gets me is, like, I could also see her taking a step. I think if she didn't, I think she'll lose fans now.
Yeah.
People who paid so
much money
to travel, to travel across the country to see her.
Yeah.
I'm very, like, and
I think that's why, like, you don't see stars, like, canceling huge shows like that a lot.
No.
It's because, like, you could be, like, so sick. It's like, we're getting a doctor in here. You're getting IVs because, like, like, you're supporting an entire industry of people, basically, which is a lot of pressure. But also, again, like, it comes down to your fans. Like, if I had paid, like, again, we talk about, like, the Charlie XCX, where it's going to be $300 for 2 tickets, basically. Actually, I think it was more than that. And I was like, I love Charlie XCX. Imagine if I had spent that, and it's, like, my last, like, my savings, like, whatever, and you cancel it?
Yeah.
Like, I can maybe get a refund on the ticket. I can't get a refund on the flight. I can't get a refund on the hotel. I can't get a refund on anything.
That's my thing, is, like, people, like, maybe they got a refund on the ticket. I don't know if they did. But they didn't get a refund on traveling to see her. Like, and I
do think the tours put a lot of pressure on, like, these artists. I think that needs to be recognized.
And she did get famous very fast. That's a lot on somebody who's, she's like 20. First of all, do you know her name is Kaylee?
Yeah. I also love, there's, like, a tweet where they're like, I've been saying, like, Chappell as I've been saying it, like,
Chappell.
Dave Chappell, like,
Chappell Roan.
Yes. Which, I mean, it's kind of, I think it's how it's spelled, but I think it's her grandfather's,
Chappell,
like, a family
name. Yeah, it's not spelled like Chappell, but yeah. I see, I'm not going to sit here and be totally, like, I think she became famous very fast. It's all a whirlwind, but all I'll say is, like, just show some decorum, show some like, you're not on that level of,
and I think maybe it is,
fame
like,
yet. I just don't
again,
think
any Gen Zers that listen to this, which is probably no one, but I think it is a very Gen Z thing. We talked about, like, at the office and
to be
stuff.
Like, I prioritize my mental health. Like,
yes, it's like, I prioritize my mental health too, but also if I don't have this job,
yes,
I can't eat.
What I always think, I'm not saying I always put others before myself, but I mean, sometimes, like, in certain situations, we talk about this a lot, like, taking off of work is sometimes harder than just working.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you have to think about all the things you have to do to put in place, and some people don't think about that. Sometimes there's some people I work with who, or just, not who I work with, but just people just people in general who will just be like, bye, like, screw you guys, I'm taking the day off. Like, and, okay, but I think, like, this is one of those situations where it's like, you really, and again, it's because of what it came off of that I think is what, it's not like it just came out of nowhere. I think it's like most people know where this is coming from. It's after all the backlash she received.
I have two theories about Gen Z. Mm-hmm. One of them is also, like, not even that it's harder to take off, but, like, I feel guilty sometimes.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is, like, a product of our capitalistic society.
Yeah.
But I also think it's because Gen Z was too young, for the most part, to really internalize, like, the recession, you know? Like, I think maybe, like, they've just been not having to deal with that for long enough. But however, they are inheriting a difficult economy that we're all living through.
Yeah.
But it is nothing like the 2008 recession. But I think so maybe sometimes that makes it. But also, I think, like, again, today, like, I fell down the steps and I thought my ankle was broken for a hot second.
Yeah.
I sent a message on Teams. I told everyone what happened. I said, I'm stepping away for a minute. 10 minutes later, I said, I'm back.
Yeah. At my last job, I was literally at the hospital learning that I probably had blood clots and that I needed to go and, like, get an ultrasound on my leg. And I told my boss that, and she went, do you still think you can get your story in today? And I was like, you know what? I think so, but, like, let me go get this ultrasound first. Like, and I think, like, and I'm not saying that that's a good way of operating.
That's problematic, but I also think the other way is also problematic, and there has to be, like, a happy medium between the two, where it's like we are balancing these things.
And that's why I do feel kind of bad speaking on this topic, like, ultimately, because we really don't know what's going on, and we don't know what Kaylee is really dealing with in her personal life, and so I do feel kind of bad, but I think, like, if we're all, like, looking at this in one big, like, just view, it doesn't look great.
And it's interesting, like, I think we are getting into this era where it's going to be more like Gen Z stars. But as I say, like, Hollywood in general, I think is slow to change. Even though it feels like it's supposed to be progressive, people think it's progressive. But I think, like, we'll probably see in 10 years this change that's happening throughout, like, the country or whatever. But I think Chappell Roan is just on the forefront of it, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with her career, etc., because she is on the precipice, I think, of being one of the greatest pop stars of our time, maybe. She is, I think, at the start of her career, her music is phenomenal. She is touching multiple, like, communities. She is creating something unique and different. But what she does with it, I mean, that's up to her. How she manages it, what she wants out of that and out of her life.
A lot of this, I will say this, has anyone, like, challenged Sabrina Carpenter to speak out on topics? On politics? Has anyone asked her, like, who she's endorsing? Yeah. I don't think so. So I do think, like, Chappell Roan has kind of gotten an unfair thing of, like, because she's such a champion for, you know...
Yeah.
For... you know, specific communities, it's like people just assume she'll endorse whoever, like, she'll have, like, a certain mindset, but so I will say, like, that I do feel bad for her on that, like, because I'm just gonna say I don't think people are really talking about Sabrina like that.
No. And I think it's because Sabrina's, like, poppier. Like, technically Chappell Roan is pop music, but it has, I think, a little bit more, like, depth and interest, her music, than Sabrina Carpenter's does. And I love Sabrina Carpenter. But I also think Chappell Roan is in an interesting position. I think Chappell Roan is from Missouri. But I think, like, her family is very traditional. And she talks about that in interviews sometimes. So I think she's coming from this interesting and conflicted place where I think she has come out. She is a champion of, like, the LGBTQ community. Her family is supportive of her in multiple ways, but also she probably grew up with this foundation where it's kind of like, I don't know, like a weird juxtaposition type of thing. And so maybe that's kind of what we're seeing because she is young, you know, and I can't imagine being famous like that.
No. She does always surprise me when she made that video of her kind of, like, you know, talking about all just the video that she posted that got a lot of criticism. She always surprises me. She's never what I expect her to sound like.
Same.
And because I picture her, she has literally described herself as a drag queen. Like, that's how she describes herself. And so then when I see photos of her or videos of her just like, almost just kind of, I don't know another way of saying this, but like just kind of being like a normal like girl, like a normal like, you know, girl in her 20s or whatever, where it's like she's not all like made up and has like, you know, her whole persona. It just always throws me off a little bit. Same. So I think we think of her as this one figure that she's also just a, you know.
She also girl. I think like she's one of those people I would be afraid to get in a conversation with because she seems like she would be so blunt about like, you're stupid. You know what I mean?
That's what I said when I saw that video of her with the paparazzi. Some people like that kind of personality. I personally don't. I don't find it.
Yeah.
I kind of don't like it. I don't like it reminds me of that type where people are like, oh, like, she just tells it like it is. And it's like, well, no, she's just a bitch. Like, I don't really know. Like,
and it's not even like because some people will say like, oh, is she a bitch if a man did it? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't like tell it like it is on anyone.
Like when Jared Leto is like that. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? I don't like when anyone's like that.
I think like, I don't know. It's
again,
just
have some decorum.
Yeah, I think like it's interesting. But again, we're not in that situation. We don't know.
Well, I don't think I'd be screaming at photographers, "Fuck you, shut the fuck up." Like, they're doing their jobs. I'm just gonna say I don't think I'd ever be in that situation. Yeah. So again,
I can't see you screaming at anyone like that. Actually, wait, I have seen you have like very angry moments at the office, but you never said it to anyone, just to me.
And I have to be pushed to that level. Do you think I'd be pushed to that level on a red carpet when I'm like, I know I need to be on my best behavior?
Yeah. However, I will say, like, red carpets do seem like high, like, sensory overload as someone who, like...
Yeah.
But I don't get, like, aggressive when I'm, like, sensory overload. I just get kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to say. Like, I can't imagine someone bringing one of those tiny little microphones and asking me a question while there's just, like...
I'd love that.
Yeah, but I wouldn't. When it's loud, there's flashing lights. I'd be like, I don't know.
But I know you'd be like nice about it. You would be, like, and that's what gets me is like when people, again, just, and I'm not saying anybody should be like this, but for somebody at her level of fame, I don't think she should be at that. I don't think she's at that level yet.
It's like kind of like a phrase that pisses me off. Like people, I think used to say where it's like, oh, why does like the stranger deserve my kindness? But it's also like, why don't they?
Why don't they? It's free to be kind. I mean, it's also free to be mean, but like it's free to be kind.
Like until someone proves to me that they don't like deserve it, like I'm not gonna be a bitch.
I match people's energy, and once again, I mean, okay, yeah, they were photographers yelling at her, but I'm like, they're just doing their job. And if you don't know that, going to a red carpet, you don't know that there's going to be photographers potentially yelling your name.
Yeah.
They were just yelling at her to look at them. Like, that's just what photographers do.
It reminds me, like, right before we started this podcast, we were talking about, like, my greatest fear is just, like, accidentally being rude to wait staff. Yeah. To the point where, like, a waiter could bring a plate over and literally spit in the plate in front of my face, and I'd be like, oh my god, thank you for your service, this is great.
Well, there's something I hate more than when like if a waiter comes over and like you're with somebody who just like doesn't acknowledge them.
Yes,
literally I'm not gonna sit here and be like I do this, but like it takes 2 seconds to look at them and be like thank you, like that's all it takes. So like, I mean, I know like people say like, oh, you don't see them, like sometimes people just get caught in their worst moment, but like.
Yeah, but also I will say, I think, like, especially for me, like, I'm a people pleaser, I'm an apologist, I literally will bump into a chair and be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And so maybe, like, Chappell Roan is maybe what needs...
I think it's Roan, by the way. I'm not...
Sorry, I always say
you're
Roan.
Fine.
It is Roan.
I do think it's Roan. I think.
Chappell Roan.
Kaylee.
I think, like, maybe she is what needs to come into the system and be like, hey, why are we treating celebrities like this? Why are we so demanding of them? But I think also at the same time...
but also be nice. Like, it's not that hard.
So, I don't know. Thoughts, yeah.
Those are our thoughts. Kaylee Rose.
But yeah, so some serious topics, some fun topics. We have our assignments. I'm literally going to Venmo you $5 to watch that and or find it at the library.
That makes me
Do you have a DVD
bad.
player?
I do.
Okay, I bet it's at the library.
Is it free at the library?
Yeah, if you have a library card.
Somebody I know must have a library card.
I have a library card. I will go to the library and I will get it for you.
Okay.
But don't like scratch or damage it because I have a good reputation there.
Oh, you have 5 stars.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All
right. And I'll give American Horror Story a try again.
Watch the first 2 episodes, because let me tell you something. I actually remember the night. Yeah. I remember the night that I watched American Horror Story the first time, and I'll never forget it. Let me just say, I was going to Hallow Scream that night.
What a vibe.
I know. I was going with Matthew, actually. And this just for anyone who knows, like, we started dating in high school, so like this is like a high school date. I was going, but right before I watched the first 2 episodes in my room because my mom had watched it. My mom was like, "This show is really good. You should watch it." I watched it. I was home alone. I was so scared, Alexa.
Really?
It was so scary to me.
Because I remember the first time I watched American Horror Story.
You watched Coven.
No. I watched the first couple episodes, I think, but I remember the first episode of American Horror Story.
Wait a minute.
When it first came out, my parents recorded it on the DVR.
Wait a minute.
We started watching it, and then suddenly there's a man in a black latex suit crawling around.
Yeah, that's the Rubber Man.
My parents immediately, like, fade to black, credits rolled. They said, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen." And we never watched another episode.
Hold on. So you've watched it?
Watched 1 episode.
Alexa.
Because, I mean, I don't know, when did it come out? 2011?
Yes.
Watching TV with my parents all the time. They were like, "This is horrible." My parents don't do camp. They are not campy type of people. So
you'll watch the second episode?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have to rewatch the first one. It's been 15 years. Which pains me to say. That's why my ankle's breaking.
Go into it knowing what it is, okay?
Yeah, I know.
But that's why I'm like, watch the first 3.
People love it. I will give it another try for you, for Ryan Murphy.
I think the second season's actually the best
all
season.
Our little
so I kind of wish I had told you watch the first 2 seasons, but I know that's like unfair.
That's a long assignment, and if you did that, I would give you an assignment that you would hate.
What?
I would tell you to watch all of The Haunting of Hill House.
No.
Because the ending
I watched the first episode. I already know what happens. Here's
my thing. Okay, I know we are way over, but whenever I watch a new show, you have to give it 2 to 3 episodes. I think I've mentioned this before. Because...
I watched 2 episodes of Dairy Girls.
And you didn't like it. You can be honest.
It's fine.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's wild.
Most people love it.
Love it. I've watched it 3 or 4 times in full.
Hey, can I say something? This is going to make you be like, Molly, what? I felt so bad for how they treated the guy. I felt so bad for him.
But it's funny.
It just made me feel bad for him. Like, he couldn't pee. He couldn't even find a bathroom to pee in. Like, that made me feel so bad.
But it's because he's English.
I don't care.
But also, it gets better.
That's so offensive.
His story arc is lovely.
I'm sad for him.
And the way they love him is as lovely. But... yeah, I just give it 2 or 3 episodes. Because the pilot, you never really know. And I always say Outlander for an example. I thought the first 2 episodes were the most boring things I've ever seen. Then I watched the 3rd episode and I was like, I'm hooked for life.
Of Outlander?
Yes. And I always say, I'm like, 3 episode, like, I give it a 3 episode try.
I don't know if I have capacity for, like, a new show that has already been on. I realize I think I don't have capacity for it.
I know. I put this on here a while ago. I am stressed about what I need to watch. I need to watch 3 Women. I need to finish Tell Me Lies, which we will have a discussion about because I have lots of things on both of those topics.
I watched a women-led movie.
Okay.
It has Natasha Lyonne, Carrie Coon, and Elizabeth Olsen. It's called My 3 Daughters, I believe. Oh. And I just watched it on Netflix on my way to New Jersey. Gotham, New Jersey.
Yeah.
And it was a little boring, so I didn't finish it. But I watched it because I love Natasha Lyonne and Elizabeth Olsen and Carrie Coon. So I watched it, and heavy on the dialogue. But there you go. I watched something with all women. So before you call me an anti-feminist.
I never said that.
You used those exact words.
Those words never left my mouth. I never said that. I believe in that. We saw Barbie together.
Anyway, I just wanted to tell you that. What? I love Barbie.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We saw Barbie together, which they have the, like, Barbie outfits print at Barnes & Noble. How much would you guess? Or not, like, print, but you know how they did the book where it's, like, Margot Robbie's outfits? It's a book.
Yeah.
They have it at Barnes & Noble. How much do you think it is?
50.
55. A lot of ink, I will say. That makes sense. And on that note, we will see you guys next week for a very special episode with a very special guest. No spoilers, but she is a good friend of the pod.
And it's going to be a fun little
spooky
episode.
Spooky episode. There will be a murder. Stay tuned to find out who.
I may have a new man of the week next week. Anyway. We'll
talk
about it next week.
And if you don't, you should follow us on Instagram to see our out of context posts, our questions of the week, and general giggles and hoo-has. It's at Poppin In Podcast on Instagram. Also, if you made it this far, please subscribe, rate us 5 stars, come back next week. We're just two girlies chatting about the media.
Bye!